the floor by police. They appear, as you say, to administer a pepper spray to his face. His hands are blooded, and a police van completely surrounded by furious Liverpool fans. The irony being, Mark White, this police officers may well have saved this driver's life.
Well, yes, I mean, a very angry crowd there. I could hear on some of the video people shouting, you know, not just stop him, but, you know, kill him. And understandably, people very enraged at what they were seeing there. I should say I've got this statement in full from Merseyside Police saying we would ask people not to speculate on the circumstances surrounding tonight's incident on Water Street in Liverpool city centre. We can confirm, as Jack was alluding to before, that a man arrested as a 53-year-old white British man from the Liverpool area. Extensive inquiries are ongoing to establish the circumstances leading up to the collision. We would ask people not to share distressing content online, but to send the footage or information directly to the Merseyside Police Control Centre. So understandably, putting out that appeal for any social media video, as I say, that can be very helpful to the police in kind of quickly piecing together exactly what happened. But to be honest, the police were there. We could see it in the video anyway. The police were there as this vehicle was ploughing into individuals. The driver was driving this vehicle, it seems, towards those people in the crowd. So police were chasing the vehicle, so their own eyes will give a good account of exactly what unfolded as well. A lot will now depend on who this person is and what he tells the police. Sometimes suspects in custody are not at all cooperative, and it can take police a while just to piece together the background of someone through identifying documents. They might have driver's license, fingerprints. If they've been in trouble with the law before, then they would be on a database. That takes just a little bit more time. But if the person is cooperative, if the person is willing to engage with the police, they can establish quite a bit more quickly. Listen, Merseyside Police will know, and they know, of course, after what happened in the incident in Southport, the need to get information out there quickly to counter a narrative that's building on social media. So I would expect we will get more proactive messages from Merseyside Police in the coming minutes and hours.
Thank you, Mark White, for bringing us up to speed. I've been Martin Daubney on GB News Tonight. I'm handing over now to Patrick Christys tonight for extended special coverage of the breaking news story in Liverpool.
It's 8 p.m. I'm Patrick Christys with a special extended edition of Patrick Christys Tonight, with tonight's major breaking news. On the streets of Liverpool, a man has ploughed a car through Liverpool fans celebrating their team's Premier League success. Several people are injured. Footage that is too graphic to show you suggests that some people may be very seriously injured indeed. Dozens of ambulances are on the scene. An air ambulance was present, fire crews, police everywhere. This is a major incident. The driver of the vehicle was seen careering into a crowd of people, pausing, then speeding up again before coming to a standstill. Dozens of Liverpool fans and police then swarm the car, smashing the windows and dragging the driver out. He has been arrested. As yet, the description of the driver, which has landed in the last couple of moments, is, according to police, he is a 53-year-old white British man. This is their statement in the last few moments from Merseyside Police. We would ask people not to speculate on the circumstances surrounding tonight's incident on Water Street in Liverpool city centre. We can confirm that the man arrested is a 53-year-old white British man from the Liverpool area. Extensive inquiries are ongoing to establish the circumstances leading up to this collision. A North West Ambulance Service spokesperson told us here at GB News that they are supporting an incident in Liverpool city centre following reports of of a road traffic collision. We're currently assessing the situation and working with other members of the emergency services. Our priority is to ensure people receive the medical help they need as quickly as possible. Updates will be published on this page as Mersey Police, as we know more. This is an incredibly devastating incident. People, thousands, tens of thousands of Liverpool fans celebrating their team's success, only for that to turn into absolute despair and carnage. Our thoughts, of course, are with absolutely everybody who is involved. A spokesperson for the North West Air Ambulance Service as well has told us that they are on the scene. The Prime Minister, Sir Keir Starmer, said, "The scenes in Liverpool are appalling. My thoughts are with all those injured or affected. I want to thank the police and emergency services for their swift and ongoing response to this shocking incident." He says that he's being kept up to date on the developments and asks that we give the police the space they need to investigate. We are going to be here for as long as it takes, frankly, for us to get the updates and the information that we all want and need on this devastating incident. I'm going to take you live to the scene now with GB News reporter Jack Carson, who is there for us. Jack, what's going on where you are?
Well, there's a lot of around us, a lot of people gathering, a lot of shock and horror at the scenes that we're seeing. Let me step out the way so you can see the emergency response that we've got here on Water Street. You can see there the police cordon that has recently, in the last 20 minutes or so, been brought forward. They've cleared some of the shops because there have been thousands of Liverpool fans trying to exit the main area by the Liver building when this incident seemingly happening not long after the Liverpool team bus actually passed all of the tens of thousands of fans that had gathered, and it was when those thousands of fans were trying to make their exit that this incident seems to have taken place. You can see the blue lights here, the emergency response. We have seen multiple ambulances go into the scene. We've also seen multiple police trucks and vans arrive on the scene since we have been there. So they are additional officers and additional members of Merseyside Police that have arrived on the scene that weren't here 20 or so minutes ago. To reiterate the statement from Merseyside Police that you read out a short while ago, Patrick, that Merseyside Police can confirm the man arrested is a 53-year-old white British man from the Liverpool area. They add in that statement that extensive inquiries are ongoing to establish the circumstances leading up to the collision. They say they would ask people not to share distressing content online, but to send that footage or information directly to the Merseyside Police as they, of course, begin these investigations. That a man has been arrested is news for the police in order to be able to ensure that those investigations can take place at a speedy, at a lot of speed. There were, of course, because of the tens of thousands of people here in Liverpool celebrating that league title win today, there was, of course, a mass police response anyway to ensure that the parade went by in a safe manner. That has allowed police to be able to get onto the scene very quickly indeed and begin those investigations at a lot of speed as well. You can see officers, we've not long ago actually had a group of officers seemingly having a briefing by someone from Merseyside Police as to the next steps. There is a fire engine down there as well that has been part of the response here, because there are tens of thousands of fans trying to get all around from this area. We, funny enough, walked up just 2 streets down from where this incident happened when we were reporting on the parade today. We took a different route back into the city centre. The incident that has happened, thousands of people taking that route as well to try and get back into the city centre to continue those celebrations from celebrating a 20th league title. And that is why now, as we stand here on the scene, all around us, Liverpool fans gathering, trying to work out what exactly has happened, the circumstances of why it has happened, asking those questions that we're all asking, but questions that will come out and be answered as the police investigation does take place, which is what exactly is. Starmer has commented on the Liverpool incident, saying the scenes in Liverpool are appalling. He says, "My thoughts are with all of those injured or affected." He wants to thank the police and emergency services for their swift and ongoing response to this shocking incident. He says he's being kept updated on developments and asks that we give the police the space they need to investigate. And from such a strong response from the police that we have seen, it is clear that these investigations are are underway, are being undertaken right this very second.
Absolutely. Jack, can I just ask you a question? I hope you can hear me there, because it must be incredibly noisy where you are with sirens and people rushing around. Look, what are the Liverpool fans saying around you there? You know, this is supposed to be a day of celebration. They're a very, very proud, loyal fan base. It's an incredibly proud city. It's a wonderful city, Liverpool, with a rich history. And to see an incident like this, I mean, what are the locals saying to you?
Well, there is a lot of shock, deep shock, at how this has happened. Quite literally, as I was saying, not long after, I would say within half an hour of the Liverpool team bus going by, and we saw flares, fireworks off the council buildings, off the Liver building, celebrations, and just less than half an hour later, we're seeing the scenes that we're now seeing today. And there is a sense, as you were saying, of how close these Liverpool fans are. Liverpool fans that we've spoken to who were celebrating the victory parade here today have told us how much of a football club Liverpool is and how much of a family this football club is. And so there is a lot of anger at what has happened today, because it feels like an attack on one of their families. It feels like one of their family members could be seriously injured. We do not know how many people have been injured in this attack. We do not know how serious some of those injuries might be. But with seeing some of the distressing images that have been online, you can only imagine some of the injuries that those people might well have got. And as we just spin around here, actually, there is another ambulance. There's actually another ambulance arriving on site here to support the incident and support the work that is going on. This is just since we've been here at the scene. This is the third ambulance that we've seen enter the scene in the last half an hour or so. So clearly that this emergency response is continuing at quite a rapid rate as well, in order to be able to get down and bring the resources to treat those people that are possibly still at the scene.
Yeah,
that is obviously
Jack,
what is going on.
That's what I want to ask you, really, because I'm looking at footage that is far too distressing to play out on national television at the moment. I'm looking at footage of a driver appear to enter the crowd. Then Liverpool fans initially surround the car and they're banging on the windows telling him to stop. His car door is opened by someone from the outside. He then pulls that door shut and then really speeds up, and it appears deliberate. It appears deliberate. He then aims, as far as I can tell anyway, for the crowds of people, hitting them as they go. He then comes to a standstill. The car is swarmed by people. They're smashing the windows of the car. The police somehow managed to get that man out of there before the Liverpool fans can exact their own justice, as it were. There's other footage of him being carried into a police van whilst police are desperately trying to keep the fans away from him. Look, I think absolutely everybody can understand the level of anger and the level of feeling from people on the ground there. There's no doubt about that whatsoever. But from what you can see at the scene now, with ambulances continuing to arrive, does that indicate to you, Jack, that there are still injured people in the road there at the moment?
Well, we saw on social media pictures that there have been screens put up at the scene as obviously the treatment is undergoing. Now, the ambulances that have arrived on scene have not been arrived on sirens. They've not been arriving with blue lights. They've simply been arriving at the scene. That would seem to suggest to me that they are here for supporting reasons, whether that is equipment, treatment, whatever it might be, and just people on the ground to support people. As I was saying, we don't know how many people have been seriously injured, and so we're not yet clear on a sense of how serious the response is having to be from the paramedics. But the fact that they are bringing more and more resources here to the scene, as I was saying, 3 ambulances in the last half an hour have arrived on the scene, suggested there is a big need for logistical support here from the paramedic and North West Ambulance Service to treat those people that are at the scene. We have not seen any ambulances currently leave on sirens to go to a hospital. That would seem to suggest that there are therefore people still there at the scene, because we've not certainly seen ambulances need to leave this scene on sirens to get to a hospital. That would seem to me to suggest that there is still treatment ongoing as well. And as you describe some of the footage that is too distressing to show, but is on social media, which the police have asked people to send to them as they obviously build this investigation up. An eyewitness also told GBNews that they saw a car ram through people and pedestrians and then started banging on the car like, "What are you doing?" Then the driver reversed and sped up forward forward and mow down more people as pedestrians, police and ambulances started chasing after the car. And that response from the police was immediate because of how many there were here, of course, to try and ensure the safety of the parade. I just want to bring you a line from a statement from Liverpool Football Club, who have said this evening that their thoughts and prayers are with those who have been affected by this serious incident. That's a statement from Liverpool Football Club, who have said our thoughts and prayers are with those who have been affected by this serious incident. And we reflect on what today was meant to be, celebrating Liverpool's 20th league title. Hundreds of thousands of people had entered here into the city to watch those parades for miles and miles, and this incident happening not too far from the Liver building. That was towards the end of the trophy parade, and as the thousands of people watched that victory parade go by and cheered on their beloved team, they then tried to exit back into the city centre to catch the train home, to get back to their cars, to go out and continue the celebrations into the night. And it was as they were doing that that this incident seems to have happened, and this car, as we've seen on social media footage, has rammed into multiple pedestrians, causing this response both from the police and from the North West Ambulance Service.
He's on the scene for us. Jack, we're going to come back to you shortly. You are looking at live shots there now of Liverpool city centre, where earlier on today, a car, a grey people carrier, careered into a group of Liverpool fans. The car went forward, it then stopped, it then went forward again at speed. The driver of that vehicle, police are describing as a 53-year-old white British man. He's been arrested. There is as yet no motive known at this particular moment in time. The other thing that we're not yet getting a handle on, but I imagine that we will be told very shortly anyway, is an idea of casualties. Now, I just want to say that our hearts go out to absolutely everybody in Liverpool, every single Liverpool fan, and, of course, all of those especially directly affected in this incident. From footage that we have seen here that is far too graphic to show, I regret to inform you that it does seem as though there are some very serious casualties. I've got a statement from Liverpool Football Club. It's in full. It says, "We are in direct contact with Merseyside Police regarding the incident on Water Street, which happened towards the end of the trophy parade earlier this evening. Our thoughts and prayers are with those who have been affected by this serious incident. We'll continue to offer our full support to the emergency services and local authorities who are dealing with this incident." I'm joined now by former police officer Hamish Brown. Hamish, thank you very, very much. Could you just describe to me exactly what will be happening to the man arrested now? Will he be in a police interview room? What will be happening to him?
Yeah, firstly, I'd like to commend Mark White on his outstanding summary of how he saw the scene. So well done, and the dignified way this has been presented. So I thank you all for that. Yes, the suspect has been arrested. They're going to find out what on earth is going on. Who is he? Where does he live? Is there an idea of going to his house, searching his house? What is the motivation? Of course, police can fingerprint him now, and in some circumstances, if there is a criminal background, they can find that out pretty quickly. They will forensicate him. They will carefully search the car, and indeed, if the house will be identified, I am sure, they will go and search that. They've got to find out what is the motive about this absolutely appalling situation. So that's what they're going to concentrate on. But may I echo the sentiment that those who have their own mobile footage of this, not as a bit of showmanship to go and stick it on the internet somewhere. That is revolting. Don't do it. If you have something of value, please send it to the police, and they will deal with that accordingly.
Can I just ask you, Hamish, please, as well? Is there a concern, will there be a concern from authorities that there may be another incident coming? We don't know the motives. We don't know what the situation is here. We don't know anything at the moment really about that. But in situations like this, is there the concern that there's something secondary?
Well, that's an interesting question, and we have seen in the last couple of weeks similar incidents, notably in Europe, but other places around the world, of cars being driven into crowds, and it almost seems inexplicable. But the police will be mindful that something else could happen, but at the moment they're dealing with one car, one suspect, and one particular incident. And I echo the concerns about the people who have been injured, and our hearts and thoughts go out on that as well. But yes, it could happen. But the police also have a public order situation to deal with rumour control. And I've already mentioned unhelpful information going on mobiles and on the internet and things like that. But they will have to contain a crowd, and we don't want any speculation. Let the police get on and deal with this suspect and find out what that's about, and they can move on from there.
And Hamish, just on that, because that's a really important point. And of course, it comes in the wake of one of the greatest cases of an information vacuum that I think we've ever seen in this country, which was that devastating Southport incident. And now what we've seen is, within, roughly speaking, an hour or so, police releasing details that this is a 53-year-old white British man. In light of previous criticism about a lack of information causing a vacuum and then whatever else afterwards, do you suspect that we are going to see information released quite quickly here by local authorities, and dare I say it as well, by the Prime Minister?
Well, I think the police are going to get on with their job. If there are houses to be searched, other people to be seen, further inquiries to be made, they may well hold back this suspect's identity. But in due course, I think we will hear just that. And you make a very good point about Southport and what happened after that, and people completely jumping to the wrong conclusion. So the police have dealt with this well. They put out certain information. It will negate some suspicions, maybe from a racial point of view, but please let them get on with it, and they will present in a sensible way, in a rational way, what the position is at the moment and the background of this person, should his name and other details be released. Any information they have in light of what the police subsequently put out may well be crucial.
Indeed. I mean, I am just going to ask this. At an event like this, where there are tens of thousands of people, everywhere we go now, we see bollards on the pavements. We see bollards and airport-style security if you just want to go into a Christmas market, for example. Here you have what many people would have regarded as, and again, I will stress, we don't know the motives yet, and I'm not trying to suggest any motives here, but we will see a prime situation for a vehicle-led attack. And, it's very early on, but surely the authorities have serious questions to answer about how on earth a man was able to drive into a crowd of people.
Well, that's interesting, because when we think about what's happened this weekend and other recent events, when we've had all these football matches going on, all sorts of celebrations taking place with the playoffs and all that sort of business, and there's going to be a celebration bus or all sorts of parties. Can the police and local council realistically put up stone bollards because the celebratory bus or some sort of party or what's going on suddenly happens? It's just not realistic. And if they're going to be sort of national or local celebrations, are we really saying you'll have to go somewhere else to do it? I mean, how far do the local authorities police go before you can prevent this type of thing. The fact that a car was allowed to go into that street, maybe the police or the or others will look at that later, but the priority at the moment now, of course, the paramedics, they're dealing with those who are injured. My goodness, I hope they're all right. The police have quickly arrested the person, also put out sensible information, and I reiterate the sensible reporting by your good selves, and I'm sure other channels don't put out speculation. Members of the public, be sensible. I know it's very emotive at the moment, but we just haven't got the full story at the moment, but I'm confident that will materialise pretty quickly.
OK, well, Hamish, thank you very, very much for joining us. I will just, if it's OK with you, ask you to stay where you are, because this is a developing, breaking incident, and we're probably going to have to go back to you at some point. That is retired Police Officer Hamish Brown. If you are just joining us, I'm going to give you the facts as we know them at this moment in time. At around 6 p.m, a 53-year-old, police say, white British man drove a grey people carrier vehicle into a crowd of Liverpool fans celebrating their team's 20th Premier League title. From footage that I have seen, that again I will stress is too graphic to show you, the car somehow gets into the crowd and appears to initially be driving very slowly. The people around the car then start banging on the window, and one man opens the car door. The driver can be seen in that and does indeed appear to be a white man, for whatever that's worth. The car then speeds up and, from what I can see, seems to deliberately career towards people, initially picking off people one by one and then going into the main crowd. I am just being told that we now have some additional information to bring you, and for that we are going to go to our home and security editor, Mark White, who I believe is ready for us now. Mark, we can go to you now. I believe this is an absolutely devastating incident in Liverpool. What have you got for us?
Well, I can confirm that counter-terrorism detectives are now involved in this investigation. One of the reasons why probably is because of the expertise that they have in very quickly trying to ascertain a potential motive for this, if it is borne out at the end of the day that this was a deliberate act. I was told by sources about an hour ago that they were working on the theory that this may have been a deliberate act. However, of course, you know, there's no indication from that what a potential motive might be. And of course, people are seeing the images and saying, of course, it's a deliberate act. But the police have to follow this up on the evidence that they've got before them, and the evidence they've got before them at the moment at least is pointing to the possibility of a deliberate act. And now because of the specialist knowledge of those counter-terrorism detectives, they are now involved in this investigation. Now, we just need to add the caveat that doesn't mean that this has yet been declared a terrorist incident. We've seen in the past, in the early stages of a very worrying incident like this, that you would get some counter-terrorism involvement for that specialist knowledge and for the rapidity of their ability to get to the bottom of what has actually happened here. So that's what we're seeing at the moment going forward, is their involvement to try to bottom this out, to get to a place as soon as possible to determine whether this was one, a deliberate act, and whether two, it was an act of terrorism. Clearly, if we're looking at a potential terrorist motivation here, there's all kinds of other issues that then come into play. Was this a one-off? Whether other people that may have had knowledge of what was about to unfold here and maybe planning something similar themselves, all those will factor into the minds of the police and the security services as they go forward to try and determine whether there is any wider risk to the public or whether this may have been a one-off incident, Patrick.
And Mark, we are seeing, so far anyway, quite proactive messaging from the police. So they were very quick to say this is a 53-year-old white British man. Why do you think they were keen to get that information out there that early?
Well, it's an obvious one, really, Patrick, and it just goes back to Southport. It's because they are very concerned that a narrative is picked up on social media that might point to, you know, there being someone involved in this that may be an asylum seeker or whatever. It's clear they want to get a message out that, look, what we're dealing with here, whatever the motivation might be, is someone who is white, British. They've got that out. There's all kinds of questions, understandably, and they're being asked already as to why the police weren't quite as proactive back at the time of Southport. We'll park that. That's for another day. But there's no doubt the reason they are doing this is because of some of the lessons, the very painful lessons learnt from Southport, in the way in which there was a vacuum of information, and that vacuum was filled with all kinds of speculation. So from what I'm seeing, certainly from Merseyside police, is a different response to the way in which they responded to Southport. There is, in the early stages, a bit more in the way of information that's coming out there. Still a lot more that people would like to know, but of course the police are just peeling, or piecing this together themselves. It only happened around about 6 o'clock this evening, so they're still in the process of trying to glean all they can from this person, get into his background, speak to the eyewitnesses, examine the CCTV and alike, to piece together exactly what happened. Was it a deliberate act, as the theory seems to be? If it was a deliberate act, was it motivated by some kind of political or terrorist motivation? Was it a road rage incident? We don't know at this stage. These are all the pieces of information and the questions that the police know the public want an answer to as soon as possible. And it's, of course, in their own interest to get that kind of detail out there quickly, just to put a lid on any simmering tensions that there might be.
Absolutely. Mark, the latest line that you just brought to us moments ago there is that counterterrorism police are currently investigating this incident. One would expect that, given the nature of it. If you are just joining us, car careering into a crowd of Liverpool fans, we do not yet have information about the number of people injured. I regret to inform you that it appears that several people are injured, and it would appear, unfortunately, that some of them are very seriously injured. Indeed. Mark, a lot of people online are talking about renewed calls, perhaps, for more armed police in situations like this. What we can see from the clips that are all over social media, and what we are shortly going to play you a clip that we can play you of the incident. But because of the nature of the celebrations, there were police everywhere, and there were ambulances and what appears to be the fire brigade everywhere dotted about as well. So thankfully the driver was able to be swarmed relatively quickly. But Mark, there may well now be renewed calls, I imagine, for more armed police. When you see incidents happening abroad that I've got a similar style to them, i.e. a car driving through a large crowd of people, you very often see armed police on the scene immediately. Their police tend to carry guns. Do you think that might move the dial here in terms of whether or not police should be carrying more?
Well, I remember back to the Nice terrorist attack in 2016, in which a truck was driven down the main promenade there on a Bastille Day celebration, a terrorist attack aimed at killing as many people as possible. And it did kill many people and injure hundreds more. But the driver on that occasion was then shot dead by French police, who are routinely armed. So, yes, there is absolutely an argument for policing for police officers to be armed, but we are in the place we are at this moment in this country where we do not routinely arm police officers, but we have specialist units. There would have been specialist armed officers around, and I would imagine around the perimeter of this event, because of the potential risk of there being an attack, because we've seen, especially in recent months, multiple vehicle-borne attacks that have taken place in Germany and France in particular, and the authorities in this country are only too aware that these events here in this country are also potentially targeted. So there would have been armed officers in the area, but whether they were anywhere near getting there in a timely manner, it just happened so quickly within, you know, a minute or so. This incident had stopped and then started and then stopped.
Thank you very, very much. It's Mark White there as a Home and Security Editor. We're going to be going back to Mark for any more breaking information. If you are just joining us, again, that breaking news line that's just coming out is that counter-terrorism police are now investigating this incident. We spoke to a retired police officer, Hamish Brown, earlier on. He said that what the police will currently be doing with this 53-year-old man who is in custody is clearly interrogating him. They'll be finding out where he lives. They'll be going round to his house. They'll be getting absolutely every single shred of information. And I do just want to say as well that given the vacuum of information that happened after the Southport incident, I suspect that we are going to get quite a lot of information coming through in the next hour or so. So it's very much worth sticking with us here on GB News. I am going to play you a clip now. And again... So that is the aftermath of that incident. I think just in case you missed that there, what we'll do is we'll play it again in a second. So that was the aftermath of the incident there on Water Street in Liverpool. Let's just see if we can play that again for people. Yeah, so the car has at this point come to a halt, and you're seeing bits of that car in the street there. The extended footage that I saw earlier showed Liverpool fans gathering around the vehicle, punching through the windows, desperately punching through the windows, trying to get to the driver. The driver was then hauled out of the vehicle by police officers. The Liverpool fans, and by the way, look, you know, I think anyone who's watching or listening to this can understand the strength of feeling behind this. I'm just describing what I saw. I'm not passing comment on it. The Liverpool fans then were attacking the driver, and the police wrestled him into a car, into a police van, a yellow police van, got him into that, and then were trying to subdue the surrounding fans. Your mind boggles as to what those people must have been thinking. There's other footage that I've seen of, because this is a celebration, it was a celebration of Liverpool's 20th Premier League title. Yeah, the whole city's there. Not just the whole city, people from out of the city. Liverpool have got fans everywhere. Massive football club, and a tremendous city as well. Liverpool, and there were so many people there. I saw footage of people pushing prams. People had brought their kids. People had brought their entire families. People just happened to be celebrating. It was coming to the end of that bus parade, and then that happens. And so really, it is fair to say that this was an indiscriminate incident by the driver of that vehicle. I believe I'm joined now by broadcaster and journalist Danny Kelly. Danny, thank you very, very much for joining us. We're going to continue to take these live shots of the scene of the crime. But Danny, you're an Everton fan, I believe. I mean, this is an incident that I would imagine just anyone who is from the Liverpool area is just feeling absolutely devastated now. And absolutely no time whatsoever for any kind of footballing rivalry at this, is there?
Pat, I left Liverpool when I was 21, and I spent many a happy Friday and Saturday night on Dale Street and on Water Street, where we're looking at the live pictures now. And I've spoken to friends up in the city tonight, and the emotions vary from complete bewilderment, confusion, but mostly, Pat, it's anger, it's fury. People just want to know why the hell this was allowed to happen. 750,000 Liverpool fans back in 2019 lined the streets of the Liverpool city centre and also the suburbs. So there'd be a similar amount, possibly knocking on 1 million Liverpool fans throughout the 10-mile victory parade, culminating in the city centre. By the way, Pat, I think you're raising some really interesting points tonight about the circumstances and about why the police, Merseyside police, have been quick to release certain information that was missing in the Southport attacks. Maybe they've learned from what people would call previous errors, mistakes, errors of judgment, things like that. But I think Merseyside police also, at some point, Patrick, and I understand why GBNews are reluctant to show some of the footage that you and I may have seen online. It's incredibly distressing. Your conclusion that you naturally jump to is one that was shared by a former police officer, and Mark White was alluding to the fact now that counter-terror police are involved. But the lad who was dragged out of the car, Merseyside police, I would say, Pat, saved the driver's life. I've never seen fury like this before. There were screams of killing. And I've seen the footage where people are breaking down glass with their bare fists in order to get to this lad. And I'd also say Merseyside police, and this was never an operation where they anticipated any sort of violence. For example, when Man United come to Liverpool or Everton, Merseyside police will flood the streets around the ground because they expect violence. This was never the point of Merseyside's policing operation today. And there was, in the eyes of some of the cops, Patrick, it was complete confusion themselves. Now, I'm reluctant to say that they lost control of any situation because it would be unfair. They weren't anticipating that. But there were cops who were looking completely bewildered as to what was going on. And luckily for the driver, they dragged the lad and put him in a police van because I'm worried about what the next couple
Danny,
of
I'm
hours
sorry
are
to
going
do
to
this. Can you just stay there, please, because I'm just going to read you and everyone who's watching and listening to this now a statement that has landed in the last couple of moments from the Home Secretary, Yvette Cooper. Yvette Cooper says, "Thank you to the police and emergency services for their swift response to the truly shocking and horrendous scenes in Liverpool this evening. Thinking of all those affected at this very difficult time, the police are investigating and I'm being kept updated on the developments." So that is from Yvette Cooper. Nigel Farage has also released a statement, which I can bring to you now as well. He says, "Horrified to see the scenes in Liverpool. My thoughts are with all those affected and injured by this disturbing attack." Well, Danny, we are waiting for more information. If I was Merseyside Police, I'll be honest, I would be expecting, and this might be unfair, but I would be expecting some kind of backlash, because how on earth in this day and age, when we have bollards everywhere and we have airport-style security to go to a Christmas market and all of that, how on earth was someone able to get a car into that crowd and then do what they did?
That's a really interesting question. And although I'm a Scouser, I live and work in Birmingham. And Birmingham city centre, which is a pedestrianised area, they do have the anti-terror bollards there. But that's because it's a pedestrianised area. Now, what we're seeing on our screens now is it's not a pedestrianised area. It's an incredibly wide road. And that could be proven to be quite fortunate, Pat, that the roads are so wide. Can you imagine what it would have been like if the roads were narrow? There'd be no escape route for any of the pedestrians. So I think on this occasion, I think Merseyside Police, it's my understanding that they had like these flexible metal rails that they would put up to obstruct pedestrians, and that they would be able to, like, for example, if they needed to get a police car down there, they'd just be able to move them, and then they'd be able to block the road off. So I understand your line of questions, Pat, but this is like a city centre arterial vehicular route rather than a pedestrianised area.
Yeah, no, I get that, Danny. Thank you for kind of, painting a picture of what the actual roads are like there. Look, we don't have a handle on the amount of people that are injured yet. Again, I will say that I have a feeling that, unfortunately, at some point later on in this show, I'm going to be giving you some quite devastating news about the number of people injured and the nature of their injuries. There is a 53-year-old man, this is according to Merseyside Police, there is a 53-year-old white British man currently in custody. The motive is unknown. As we speak, officers will be finding out where he lives, going round to his house, going through his phone, interrogating him, and I suspect that we will be getting some more information very, very shortly. But Danny, can I ask you to just zoom out a little bit and just make a comment generally on where we are in the UK at the moment? You've got a celebration here, an open-top bus parade, a proud city like Liverpool that's, you know, throughout its history has been through the ringer. I mean, by the way, it's got a history of footballing tragedy as well. I don't need to remind anyone of that. But see people celebrating in the street, and, you know, now we all have to be looking over our shoulder constantly for something like this. What have we become, really?
I was a young lad when Hillsborough happened, Pat, and the whole city fell silent. It was almost like a disaster movie where there weren't very many cars on the streets. Everybody was again just confused and incredibly sad and angry. And the first thing I thought of, besides the natural assumption as anybody would think about what happens when a car flies through a crowd, and I think that's an understandable assumption to make. I thought back to Hillsborough and 96 people who lost their lives, because, you know, this should have been a celebration. 750,000 were celebrating last time Liverpool won the league. But to answer your general point, Patrick, it's a sad indictment. This country seems to have changed rather dramatically over the last 15 or 20 years, and a lot of people's eyes and their opinions, it's changed to the detriment of overall society and how people feel about life in the United Kingdom. It will be interesting to see what the next few hours bring, Pat. But like you, I've seen the footage that you're not going to show, understandably, and it's my fear that we're going to hear some incredibly devastating news, because normally, you know, impacts with cars, and I'm not going to go into too much detail because you've been so careful not to, Pat, but I think that you'll be, unfortunately, bringing some devastating news, which is what you just alluded to.
I mean, I hope not. Obviously, we all hope not, but it's difficult to see how that doesn't end up being the case. And you know, just to say what I can say, really, is this was a street just chock-a-block full of people, and it is a grey people carrier that does manage to, at one point, get up a considerable amount of speed. And if you're in that situation, for a lot of people, unfortunately, there's nowhere to go. Danny, thank you, and thank you for that. I will ask you, if possible, just to stay where you are, and hopefully we can go back to you at some point soon. I believe I can go back now to our home and security editor, Mark White. Mark, the last time we spoke, about 10 minutes ago, the latest line was that counterterrorism police were investigating this incident. Is that still the latest? What have we got?
Yes, counter-terrorism police have been brought in because of their unique specialism in being able to very quickly get to a point of knowing whether an incident was deliberate, if it was deliberate, what the potential motivation might be. They have that specialist knowledge and, of course, the ability to delve very quickly into an individual's background. But we should say at this stage there is nothing coming out officially to say that they are treating it as a terrorist attack. We have heard, of course, just in the last few minutes, that statement from the Home Secretary, Yvette Cooper, talking about, you know, the horrendous incident that has unfolded in Liverpool and how her thoughts are with those involved, and she is being kept fully up to speed with what is going on by the police, by the specialist investigators. That follows a statement from the Prime Minister a little earlier as well, echoing those remarks, really, just talking about just how concerned he is and how he is also being kept in the loop. So you've got the most senior politicians in the land across this story, understandably, as anxious as we are to know what exactly played out here and what the potential wider risk might be, because that is always, I think, the biggest issue of concern. If an incident is declared a terrorist incident, might there be more in the way of planned attacks like this? Because we've seen in recent months in Germany and in France and elsewhere vehicles being used in attacks to deadly effect, and it's always something that is uppermost in the minds of those in this country who are planning big events. Crowded places are always a higher risk, and that's why, of course, we saw very significant numbers of police resources already on scene to be able to sort of manage the crowds. I was watching some of the messages that Merseyside Police were putting out earlier in the day, just urging people not to climb up onto scaffolding and buildings and alike. They know that crowded places come with a risk anyway when you've got a mass of people, and always the potential for something to go wrong, for people to be crushed and alike. So that was one of the upsides of an incident like this unfolding, the very fact that there were so many members of the emergency services already very close to the scene here. You were mentioning before about armed police units, and you know, we can confirm that there will have been armed response vehicles at a location, that they could get there quite quickly. But the trouble with a vehicle-borne incident like this, if it turns out to be an attack, or even if not an attack, it starts and finishes just so quickly, within a minute or so, from the start of this to the end of it. Even if you had an armed response vehicle a few streets away, by the time they get there and through a crowd and alike, you know, they're going to be too late. And we could see from the video anyway that just, I think, the sheer mass of people, that vehicle just ground to a halt, potentially damaged anyway, and then it was very quickly surrounded by members of the public and the police, and that driver pulled out of the vehicle.
Yeah, and I'm just going to read some comments from people online at the moment. "You'll never walk alone" is trending, of course, the famous Liverpool song. Tributes and thoughts and prayers and well wishes coming in right across the footballing spectrum. This is one of those incidents that football rivalry goes straight out the window. There's none of it at all. Every single person today will be hoping for the very best for every single one who's associated with Liverpool Football Club on what was supposed to be a joyous day, celebrating their 20th Premier League title. 53-year-old, as police describe him, British white man has been arrested after a car ploughed into a crowd of people during Liverpool FC's Premier League victory parade. It's an ongoing breaking incident. And Mark, as it currently stands, we don't appear to have any solid information about the number of casualties.
No, I mean, I can tell you that we are going to get an update from the emergency services a bit later on this evening, where we will then get numbers. I mean, it may be that some casualty figures come out before then, but we should get a further indication of just how many people have been injured in this. Certainly eyewitnesses are talking of multiple people that were mown down in this incident. And what, you know, the vehicle, apparently this grey 4x4 vehicle, emerged into the traffic and the crowd right next to an ambulance that was parked up. As I say, that's one of the aspects of this incident unfolding, the fact that there were so many emergency services there quickly and able to respond, because the quicker you can get to a casualty, then the greater the chances of that individual having a good outcome, the longer people are left without treatment, as we've seen before. Remember, of course, the horrific events at Manchester Arena in 2017. A lot of lessons to be learned there, because that bomb, when it went off, caused such devastation in that main ticket hallway and that main atrium, but there were many people left untreated, and actually just treated by other members of the public, because the police were keeping other members of the emergency services back, because they didn't know about whether there would be secondary devices, other people willing to carry out an attack. So there have been some lessons learned from that. But the very fact that the emergency services were right in and amongst the crowd meant that they were there and able to respond very quickly, regardless of what concerns there might be for, you know, any secondary incidents unfolding.
Well, that will be a concern, because as with any incident like this, there is always the worry that there's something else going on. Look, there's no indication of that at the moment. I do want to stress that there is at this particular moment in time no no motive. However, Mark, we are obviously choosing to not play the footage, which I can understand. It's incredibly graphic. You know, there's also the victims involved, and we need to be mindful of that. But would you mind talking our viewers and our listeners through it? You've seen it. There's various different angles of it. There's also footage from once the car comes to a standstill and the Liverpool fans and the police then get the man out of the car. Would you mind just describing to everyone who's just joining us, please, what you've seen?
Yeah, I mean, the images I've seen from both street level and also from higher buildings in the area show this vehicle one point appearing to be at a standstill, then starting up again, moving forward, and it seems to veer into a significant crowd of people, almost as if it's deliberately aiming for that particular crowd. Now, other eyewitness reports that we don't seem to have video of the very start of this, unless you've seen anything, Patrick, but I think the images that I've seen so far appear to be of this incident after it has unfolded some way into the incident, because some eyewitnesses are talking about the vehicle moving at very high speed initially, and colliding with members of the public, mowing members of the public down at that stage. There are other eyewitness reports suggesting that the vehicle is stopped, that people around the vehicle trying to smash the windows and grab the driver. At that point, the vehicle reverses before then going forward again. Other video I've seen shows the vehicle at a standstill and what is believed to be the driver pushed into the back of a yellow Merseyside police people carrier, and then very angry members of the public surrounding that people carrier, banging on the side of the people carrier, perfectly understandably, from what they've just witnessed there, and police trying to hold people back. There's an individual on the ground, from what I could see on one of the videos, who looks like, his face is very red, but I don't know if that's someone who may have actually been caught up, a victim that may have been run over, because I think there's some blood on that individual's hands as well. So it's a confused picture. There are multiple pieces of video that's coming out that certainly seem to point to the fact that this vehicle was being driven deliberately at the crowd. Whether that was born of any particular motivation, we just don't know, and that's why you've got the counter-terrorism policing now involved in this. Those detectives who are, as I say, very expert at being able to drill down very quickly into a fast-moving incident like this to determine whether there was anything that was potentially politically motivated, whether it may have been an act of terrorism. Because, as I say, if you do get to that point where they do believe that this may have been a deliberate and maybe even a terrorist act, then you've got to at that point, really start to determine whether there could be other people that had knowledge of what was going on, that may be planning something similar. There's all kinds of other complicated investigative lines that will be born of that. But we're not at that stage yet.
Mark, thank you very, very much for all of this. It's Mark White, our Home and Security Editor. As and when we get any breaking lines, Mark White will have them first, and he will have them here on GB News. Latest from Merseyside Police is this. We would ask people not to speculate on the circumstances surrounding tonight's incident on Water Street in Liverpool city centre. We can confirm the man arrested is a 53-year-old white British man from the Liverpool area. So they're very quick to get that detail out there. You can understand why. They're very quick to make sure that there is not a repeat of the information vacuum that happened in the wake of the Southport incident. Look, I would imagine that as soon as they get a motive to this, they are going to want to tell us, aren't they? Because they are going to want to try to do everything they can to avoid some kind of public mass disorder situation and all of that. So I do think that we are going to find out tonight now whether or not any lessons have been learnt from that Southport incident. So watch this space. I will just say again, I do think at some point relatively soon we are going to have to get an update on the casualties here, and I do not think that's going to be particularly nice information. So I just want to warn you of that, with that in mind going forward. Shortly, we're going to be hearing from an eyewitness as well, because our reporter on the ground, Jack Carson, has managed to find an eyewitness. He's been speaking to us. We're going to hear what they have to say. But before that, I'm joined now by security expert Duncan Gardam. Duncan, thank you very, very much. Can I just ask, with your security expert hat on, what are you thinking when you see an incident like this unfold? What are you thinking? Presumably you've seen various clips online that, for obvious reasons, we're not playing out on national television. What's your assessment of what we've seen here in Liverpool?
It's very difficult to draw any conclusions from the visual material I've seen online. I'm aware of a number of what we call in the security world vehicle as weapon attacks that are not connected to terrorism. So we've had people using vehicles outside nightclubs and in a variety of revenge attacks, if you like, people with a personal grudge. I have seen some footage which shows the build-up to the attack. The vehicle appears to be stationary. The gentleman appears to be opening his door, and people remonstrating at him for driving down a street full of pedestrians. There's another vehicle in front of him at the time. So what at that point then motivated him to put his foot down and drive into that crowd of people in quite such a horrendous manner, and indeed to then continue that that journey through the crowd, we just don't know at the moment. And it's inevitable that the police will ask us not to speculate. It's a bit of a ridiculous, frankly, request, because of course we're going to speculate. Somebody's just driven a vehicle into a crowd of people. So we're going to try and work out why they did it. And the police will, by now, 3 hours after the event, be beginning to have a working theory about what motivated him. And perhaps they will tell us what that is tonight, or perhaps they won't, and they'll wait until they charge him, if indeed they do.
Yeah, I mean, look, we almost definitely are going to hear something from the authorities at some point relatively soon. So that's all I will say on that at the moment. But we will bring that to you live when we get.
Yes, I'm not suggesting that the police don't have their hands full investigating this issue, and I think no doubt what you know, the reason that you've asked me on here to talk about it is because they've got counterterrorism, the unit up in the northwest, involved in it. And one of the reasons they will be involved in it is because they have a kind of technical expertise that will be able to try and dig into that motive. And the motive may not immediately be clear unless the driver of the car has made a statement at the scene. In other words, unless he's told the police this is why I did it, or he shouted something while he did it, it may not be clear. And in fact, you know, some of the lessons we learn from these vehicle as weapon attacks is that sometimes the actual motivation, why on earth did that person just drive a vehicle at those other people, can take some unwinding to try and work out. You know, exactly.
Can I just ask, what will be happening now, Duncan? So they've got a man in custody. What will be happening now? Are they interrogating him? Are they smashing the door in at his house? What's happening?
So there's a procedure that they need to go through, and it can take quite a while before they get to actually interview him. So he needs to be seen for any medical attention he may need, and he needs to be booked into the custody suite, and then they need to establish a a procedure by which they're going to question him to get the most out of him. And that can take several hours. And I'd be surprised if they'd started interviewing him by now, only 3 hours afterwards. It normally takes quite a long time to get to that stage. And that's partly why they don't necessarily want to say too much, because part of that interview procedure, no one can force somebody to talk in interview, and they do have a strategy to try and lay out information. But the other thing they'll be doing is looking at his phone, and that's a really important thing. And as you rightly say, they'll be trying to identify his home address and probably trying to arrange a procedure whereby they go around to the house and either get access from somebody living there or try and get in themselves. So there will be material that will be important part of this investigation, and that will take a lot longer to go through, but they will have a working theory as it stands, I'm sure.
Yeah, and it's a really interesting point that you make there, because I think I assumed, maybe a lot of people assumed, there is a video doing the rounds of that man being carted into the side of a yellow police van. But what you see leading up to that is, and by the way, I want to make this very, very clear, understandably so, from the Liverpool fans that were around, absolute rage, trying to drag him out of the car along with police, and you know, you can see what appears to be punches raining down on an individual. Again, I'm not judging anyone for doing that. I think in a situation it's perfectly understandable that would happen. But from what you said there, if during the course of that interaction, that man then suffered some kind of, say, head injuries, he would then what? Have to be taken to hospital, have to be declared fit for interview by a doctor? I mean, we could be talking a long time here before the police even sit down with this guy and find out what's going on.
Yeah, I mean, unless he's very badly injured, I'd be surprised if he needed to go to hospital. The police have medical staff they can call to the custody suite quite quickly, and they can give somebody a check. If he has had a head injury, that might require him to go to hospital. But, you know, in these circumstances, you know, it's not unusual to be given the all clear, you know, relatively quickly within an hour or so. And, you know, you're then fit to be interviewed. But the police may not want to interview him tonight. They may want to leave him in a cell overnight before they start interviewing him in the morning. They've got quite a lot of investigating to do, as you said. They've got electronic devices, which will take probably 12, 24 hours perhaps to get into, even if, you know, even at a most basic level. They will have to go around to his address and start checking out what might be there as well. So they've got quite a lot of work to do before they might want to ask his version of events.
Yeah, indeed. We are, just stress to people as well, that we are very shortly, hopefully, going to be getting you an eyewitness interview. I think we might learn quite a lot from that, because there are a huge number of unanswered questions at the moment. But Duncan, when you look at this, I mean, we have seen numerous incidents, mostly on the continent, of people targeting areas with lots of people, driving to them. Your Christmas market attacks, the attacks in Berlin, Nice, of course, the terror attack that we had over there. Again, no motive known at the moment. The driver, according to Merseyside Police, is a 53-year-old white British man. What do you make of the fact that they were very quick to get that out there, Duncan? A lot of people are saying, gosh, they've not always been so quick to reveal the ethnicity and nationality of somebody involved in one of these kind of incidents.
Well, I think part of the reason we're on the telly this evening is that people tend to jump to the conclusion that an incident is terrorist motivated, and it seems to incite greater passions if it's an Islamist terrorist than if it's a far-right terrorist, perhaps, at the moment. But I would just caution against that, essentially, because I'm sad to say that while vehicles as weapons may have started out as a terrorist methodology in Nice, with the attack on the promenade, driving an articulated lorry along there, that they have continued to be used as a terrorist method. but they are not exclusively used as a terrorist method. And people can act in these ways, as we learnt in Nottingham, for instance, for all sorts of different reasons. That, of course, was a knife attack, but we learnt that that was down to mental health issues. And, you know, people sometimes develop grudges for various reasons, or frustrations. Sometimes alcohol or drugs are involved. There is a huge variety of reasons why this man may have done, if indeed it was the man arrested, may have done what he did.
Duncan, thank you very, very much. Just sorry, Duncan, actually, whilst I've got you as a security expert, I am just going to... I know I've asked this question to a couple of people already, but I really do think this is vital to try to understand. How on earth can a car get there when you've got a mass event like this? I mean, there could have been close to 1 million people there today. It's not beyond the realms of possibility. Liverpool FC, massive football club, huge city, people all over the world, a global fan base, people descending onto Liverpool, you know, especially making the most of it, because the last time they won the league title, they couldn't really celebrate it because of coronavirus, and now here they are. You know, I mean, is this ultimately a security failure?
So these parades are very difficult. They pose huge police challenges, and that tends to be why they need to be planned several weeks in advance, sometimes before people have even, you know, won the cup, or in this case, the Premiership, because so many kind of security considerations have to be put into place. But a moving carnival is a very difficult situation. Say if you're looking at Manchester Marathon or the London Marathon, these are kind of things that people, you know, they can have, you know, a long time setting up, putting barriers in place, etc., etc. But anything that is moving, that is stretched out, makes it more of a challenge to police to try and prevent. But in some of the footage I can see even now in front of me that you're running, there are some concrete blocks and barriers and various things that are obviously designed to try and prevent vehicles getting down individual streets. But I could see in the earlier footage that there was already a vehicle there. So in this case, there does seem to have been some vehicle access, even though there were pedestrians all over the street. And of course, the combination of pedestrians and vehicles, as we learned actually in central London only a few weeks ago when a student was run down by a delivery van, is not a great combination. Now, I was watching the victory parade, the Tottenham victory parade in North London a couple of days on Friday, I think it was. And you know, you do try, you know, from a security standpoint, it does kind of slightly, you know, get the hackles up, if you like. You kind of think, oh, you know, something, you know, it wouldn't take much, right? And, you know, using vehicles as weapons, we know Christmas markets are a target, you know. We know that football grounds are targets. That's why you'll find very few grounds will allow
you know, it's a real crying shame, Duncan, that unfortunately these days it seems like everything's a target. It just seems like everywhere you go, you've got to be looking over your shoulder for something. Unfortunately,
crowded places is what they call it, and that's what we kind of concentrate on when security officials are trying to give out advice. They call it protective advice. They try and talk about crowded places, so they talk about shopping centres, football crowds, you know, areas where large numbers of people gather, and they know these places can become targets not just for terrorists but for lunatics and.
Well, you make a great point there, Duncan. You make a tremendous point, because the first thought, and understandably so, is obviously terrorism. That's what you think. Is this a terrorist attack? We don't know yet. We don't know. But the second thing you have to look out for these days, it's just nutters. It's lunatics. You know, between that and the shoplifting and the phone thefts and everything that's going on in Britain at the moment, you think, goodness gracious me, you've got to have your eyes absolutely everywhere all the time, at all times. It's just, you look at this, and I'm just going to read out a couple of statements. Duncan, thank you very, very much. It's tremendous to have you on, and a genuine insight there as well, actually, especially when it comes to what the police will be doing now. If you are just joining us, what Duncan said there at the start of that interview was that depending on the medical condition of the supposedly 53-year-old man who's been arrested for this, police might not have even started interviewing him yet. So we'll have to wait and see what information they've managed to glean, but they will have got hold of his phone. They'll be going through that. They will probably, at this stage now, know where he lives. They'll probably know who he is. Certainly, if they knew he was a 53-year-old man, you might have a driving licence on him, for example. So there we go. Duncan Gardam there, who's a security expert. I'm going to read you a couple of statements now. We've got one for the Leader of the Opposition, Kemi Badenoch, the Conservative leader. What Kemi Badenoch says is, the pictures emerging from Liverpool are deeply worrying. My thoughts are with all of those affected and the emergency services as they respond to what appears to be a horrific incident. Now, just to show, of course, that this is one of those incidents, tragically, that cuts across footballing rivalries, Manchester United have released a statement. They say, our thoughts are with Liverpool Football Club and the city of Liverpool after today's awful incident. That statement from Liverpool FC says, we are in direct contact with Merseyside Police regarding the incident on Water Street, which happened towards the end of the trophy parade earlier this morning. Our thoughts and prayers are with those who have been affected by this serious incident. We will continue to offer our full support to the emergency services and local authorities who are dealing with this incident. At some point this evening, we're expecting some kind of press conference. So as and when that happens, we will go to that live. The facts at the moment, a 53-year-old British man has been arrested. We know that there are sadly casualties. We know that some of those casualties seem to be incredibly serious indeed. We have no official statement yet on whether or not there have been any fatalities. We have no official statement yet on the number of casualties. Air ambulances were on the scene, paramedics were on the scene, fire crews were on the scene. That is where we are at the moment. I'm joined now by the former head of National Counterterrorism Security. It is Chris Phillips. Chris, counterterrorism have just been called into this. I don't know whether or not, when you were in your former post as the head of National Counterterrorism, you would have been involved in this incident. What would you be doing right now?
Well, yes, we would. Incidentally, our job was really all about trying to protect crowded places. But that starts with the assumption that you can't protect everything. You certainly can't protect moving feasts, as Duncan mentioned a few minutes ago. The most difficult thing to protect is a moving target. The point is, it's about motive. And I know this has already been said. We can speculate to our heart's content, but it is all about the motive and why this person would do such a stupid, incredibly bad thing. And that's what the police are working on. And quite rightly, it was pointed out that he may not be interviewed even till tomorrow morning. But in the meantime, of course, search warrants will be in place. Locations, phones, computers and things will be looked at in order to try and get into the mind of someone that would do this sort of thing.
Yeah, indeed. Indeed. I am just going to stress something now. I'm saying this so that this is out there in case something changes later, OK? We have, and all the media have been told by Merseyside Police that a 53-year-old white British man has been arrested after this incident. A 53-year-old. We're going to just have to wait and see if we get any more confirmation on that. It is very difficult to tell from the images of the man who seems to be driving this whether indeed he looks 53 years old, but we will be getting a bit more information on that later. So I'm just going to leave that there for now. But Chris, when you look at this incident, what do you see? Do you see someone who's maybe lost control with road rage? Do you see someone who is deliberately targeting people? Do you see someone who's, I don't know, you know, just completely off their nut? I mean, what do you see?
Well, it could have been any one of those things. And I think what the police have done by releasing those details is to try to reduce speculation. And of course, it does no one any harm to point the finger at any one particular group that might be involved in this. One person, it could be an individual, it could be a group, we don't know. It could be an accident, it could be, you know, an epileptic fit, we just don't know at this moment. And that's what the police are trying to work out. If this person has no real motive for doing this, that is a completely different issue than if their motive is some religious ideology. We don't know. And that's what the police are trying to ascertain at the moment. moment by searching his computers, by searching housing, anything that they can find out that will give them some kind of a clue as to why he would do this. And it's wrong to speculate, because if we do that, then we're potentially doing a terrorist job for them. So the important thing is that the police are allowed to get on with what they're doing, to do the investigation properly, eventually to interview him with some information that they can put to him to find out what his motive was.
And can you give me a little indication? I know this wasn't necessarily your speciality, but you have dealt with very serious mass casualty incidents. So our reporter on the ground, Jack Carson, is going to be popping up shortly with an eyewitness. But there was an air ambulance on the scene, huge amounts of paramedics. When things like this happen, do they try to treat as many people on the scene as possible? How does it normally work in terms of the casualties?
Well, it is, the most important thing is speed and dealing with the casualties as quickly as possible. And air ambulances are fantastic methods of getting highly skilled paramedics and doctors to the scene very quickly, and the ability to move a patient quickly to hospital. The key thing is, there comes down to, at some point, some evidence gathering, but initially it's all about the victims. And I would imagine there were quite a number of medics on the scene very quickly. Not only is it the city centre, but I imagine that there would have been medics attached to this event in any case. So it's about treating people, and quite often that has to be done in the street. But then obviously they want to get them to hospital as quickly as possible.
Talk to me about what leads up to huge celebratory events like this, open-top bus parades. Now, we've actually seen quite a few of them recently, haven't we? Because it's coming towards the end of the football season. Tottenham Hotspur, for example, have recently just had one. Numerous other football clubs will as well. So police forces up and down the country, presumably counter-terrorism officers as well, will have been keeping a very, very close eye on what's going on. So you end up with a situation like this one in Liverpool, where there could very easily be about, like 1 million people there. Liverpool, massive football club, huge footballing history, tremendous city, actually, I will say, Liverpool. I've absolutely adored it every single time I've been there, and I say that as someone who's originally from the Manchester area. Liverpool is just an unbelievable city with a tremendous energy and a tremendous culture and tremendous people. What counter-terrorism precautions are taken initially? Do police... it's not just about putting police in vans on the streets, is it? Presumably you have some kind of discussions about the nature of certain threats, how you're going to handle them. Will they have, as morbid as it seems, have kind of prepared for this, do you think, Merseyside Police?
Well, let's hope so, because Manchester, Liverpool, some of the big teams, they regularly win things. So there should be a plan in place ready for those, albeit sometimes they're changeable on a year-by-year basis. There's been plenty of opportunity, actually, to plan for this, because Liverpool have known they're going to win for a number of weeks, even months. But the difficulty is you can't just bring a whole city to a halt for an event like this. You have to, it's a moving feast, so you have to try and put it effectively like an island site, a moving island site, which you can then protect bit by bit. But the difficulty is, of course, there's always going to be the crowds, and even outside the bits that you can protect, those crowds are going to have to leave the scene. So you're almost asking the impossible. That it is impossible to have 100% security. You try to protect the bus and the people, the VIPs, if you like, on the bus, and the people around it as much as possible. But with a moving event like this, it's almost impossible. You can't block every road in the city. You can't use hostile vehicle mitigation measures, which are, extremely expensive, but also not necessarily that flexible and movable for something like this. So you have to kind of rely on a little bit of luck and policing that's going to stop someone from even thinking of doing this. But as I say, there is no such thing as 100% security for crowds at any event like this. OK,
all right. Well, thank you very, very much for that knowledge and insight. It's always tremendous to have you on the show, although sadly under pretty devastating circumstances there. Chris Phillips there, former head of counter-terrorism. We may well need you later, Chris, if that's all right. So thank you very, very much. Well, there is lots happening at the moment. I'm going to join us now with our Home and Security editor, Mark White. So Mark, do we think we might be getting some kind of update on casualties, on any information about the driver involved in this incident? Do we think the authorities, I think, given the nature of this and the fact that this is such a huge and serious incident, I would have thought they're going to have to come out and say something quite soon?
Well, at some point this evening, we're certainly going to get a news conference, a joint news conference, I think, involving all of the emergency services. What I can say is sources are telling me that more than a dozen people are believed to have been injured in this incident. Now, it's early stages. That number is always subject to revision. But the information that we're getting at this stage, not an official statement, but just from sources suggesting to me that more than a dozen people have been injured as a result of this incident in which a car was driven into those Liverpool supporters in Liverpool city centre.
OK, yes, and I'm sorry, I'm just getting something in my ear there from my production team outside, which is hopefully within about a minute or so we're going to have a testimony from an eyewitness here, which may well be quite revealing, because at the moment all we seem to know is this 53-year-old man is in custody. He will be being interrogated at the moment. I mean, Mark, this is just... You know, you hate to say it, but this is just the latest in a long line, whatever the motive here may be, it's the latest in a long line of just incredibly tragic incidents. It just feels like Britain is a bit of a powder keg at the moment, that things like this used to be these kind of rare, out-of-the-blue incidents. And now, whether it's things like people wielding machetes on the London Underground or on public transport generally, or you know, massive incidents like that, just lawlessness. You look at an incident like this and you think, gosh, you know, it's just devastating to see.
No, you're absolutely right. And I think the points that Duncan Garden was making just a short time ago were pretty pertinent to this issue as well. That, of course, everybody instantly wants to know, was it a terrorist attack? Was it not? The fact is that vehicles have been used as weapons by individuals wanting to cause death and destruction for all manner of reasons. It doesn't necessarily have to be terrorism, but can be shocking and horrific and just absolutely condemned. So we await really word from the police as to, one, whether they believe it was a deliberate ramming attack. If it was, whether there was actually any political motivation here, i.e. a terrorist attack, or whether it might have been something a bit more murky. Remember, of course, Southport, the very same police force with Merseyside, to this day, they still say that they couldn't get a fixed ideology for Axel Rudikabana, who carried out that horrific attack, but that he was perhaps influenced by lots of different ideologies. But it was a horrific attack by someone who wanted to carry out death and destruction on a massive scale, and he did just that. And we know, as I said, that vehicles have been used to very deadly effect all across Europe and America too in recent months and years. And we just think back to what has been happening on the continent, in Germany in particular, France as well, in recent months, where vehicles again have been used to ram into people and to cause death and destruction. In America too, also causing absolute horrific scenes in those particular countries. And in this country too, we've also experienced vehicles being used as weapons. I remember back in the day in 2017 reporting on the Westminster Bridge attack, when a vehicle was first used to plough into people on crowded Westminster Bridge before, of course, the terrorist attacker went round to the Houses of Parliament and stabbed to death PC Keith Palmer. And then also in that year we saw the terrorist attack on London Bridge, where again this time a van was used by the terrorists to plough into pedestrians who were on London Bridge before those 3 terrorists went off into Borough Market stabbing individuals as well. So we are no strangers in this country to vehicles being used in this manner as well. So that again will be uppermost in the thinking of those counter-terrorism detectives who are assisting Merseyside Police. Merseyside Police, we should say, still have the lead in this investigation, but they've called on the expertise of counter-terrorism policing Northwest to help them in the piecing together exactly what happened, and of course delving into the background of who on earth this 53-year-old man was behind the wheel of this vehicle. Was he known to the authorities? Was there issues at play, something in this person's background that points to perhaps a more sinister motive for what happened, or whether this was completely out of the blue and out of character? That will be pieced together as a matter of urgency. Whether we'll get those facts or not, I'm not quite sure. But we have, Patrick, been getting some information a bit more quickly, pertinent information from Merseyside Police, learning some lessons from Southport, knowing that the vacuum that was created by a lack of information in the early hours after that incident led to all kinds of information and speculation out on social media that lots of people, of course, we know afterwards got into some trouble for. So now the police at least getting out the fact that he was 53, he was white, British, make of that what you will, but at least that information is out there, and it is clearly an attempt by Merseyside Police to try to stop some of the rampant speculation that you might get online. But as to what this individual's motivation was, if it was a deliberate ramming attack, that we don't know at this stage.
Yeah, exactly. Look, Mark, thank you very much for this. I'm just going to talk you through some footage that I'm looking at online at the moment, and this appears to be the lead up to the incident. Okay, and there's a grey people carrier, the vehicle that you can clearly see in other videos, that has then gone on and driven through the crowd of people, and there are fans there who are punching the back window, punching the doors. The vehicle at this point is stationary, and there are other vehicles on the road, so it's not the only car other than emergency services that are on the road. Okay, so the vehicle appears to be stationary. For whatever reason, some people seem to be hitting the back window and the side windows of this vehicle. Absolutely no idea why. Don't know what's led up to that. But then, as the rear windscreen wiper is ripped off and people are again battering the windows, the car then reverses and comes into contact with the man behind, then speeds forward. So this is not a situation where, like you've seen in other incidents with Christmas markets or crowded areas, etc., where a car just comes speeding straight in, and the car was on the road, stationary, with people around it, people enjoying the parade, but then there appears to be something going on with this car. People are punching the back windscreen of the car, they're punching the side of the car, and then the car reverses. It would seem, anyway, in an attempt to try to get the people off the back of his car, and then speeds forward. So it does not seem to be a straightforward kind of cut and dry incident here at the moment. So we will keep you updated as and when we get any more information. At some point soon, we hope we're going to be getting the latest from a variety of different emergency services. There is no motive that's been put out there at this particular moment in time, and we do not have any idea of the number of casualties. However, we can show you now our reporter Jack Carson, who's been at the scene for us all day, getting reaction from somebody who I believe was an eyewitness to this incident. So let's hear what they have to say. No, keep them out, keep them out, keep them out, keep them out.
Okay, so what is your reaction to what's gone on today?
I just think this is absolute tragedy. What we're all witnessing now, mate, is like I'm going to swear, but who left this road open, honestly, because all the other roads around the city are like blocked. From 9 a.m. this morning when I'm driving around, it was all blocked. And this main road here, this was a recipe for disaster, a perfect storm. And then poor people who've basically been run over there. It's like, this ain't no accident. Why have the council left this road open? And I'm sorry, mate, if that upsets people, but at the end of the day, people need to be held accountable for this. Because this is banged out of order, yeah, and I just want to leave it really there, because at the end of that's like, I'm proper upset over this.
In the video, what are you feeling seeing that video?
Multiple videos, mate, and I don't know, like you say, the numbers, the speculation on like how many people, but the serious injuries going down. Do you get what I mean? It's like, and this road should never have ever been left open. It was inevitable this was going to happen, wasn't it? So.
And with, of course, today being a day of celebration for Liverpool, it turned so quickly after the parade had finished.
Yeah, I know, because that's what happens when you leave a road open, yeah, and everyone's buried and cars are driving down. That's going to happen, and then people have been run over because
OK, well, we're going to replay that to you in just a couple of seconds' time. That was an eyewitness there. I mean, he immediately was raising serious questions, wasn't he, about how on earth that road was left open. People online are saying, well, you do need to leave certain roads open because actually emergency vehicles do need to get access to it. Of course, no one would have thought that anything like this was going to happen. So we're going to replay that to you very, very shortly. I'm just going to get some thoughts now from my panel who are joining us this evening. We have got former Conservative MP Alex Stafford. We've got journalist and broadcaster Carol Malone. We've got political activist Chris Worrell and Mike Neville as well, who's a former Scotland Yard detective. Well, firstly, thank you very much for joining us. It's clearly not the show that we had in mind, and this is a fast-paced, ongoing event, and we're going to get updates from Merseyside Police and all the emergency services very, very shortly. Carol, I will start with you, though. What's your initial reaction to what we've seen here today in Liverpool?
It's a shocking end to what was supposed to be a fantastically happy day in that city. I used to work in and around Liverpool. It's an incredible city, and now it will be in mourning. It's that kind of city. They rally round when stuff like this happens. They won't be able to believe this, especially on a day like today when football is a massive thing in Liverpool, and they wanted to celebrate that. And now it's ended in this horror show. We don't know how seriously people are injured. You've said this before, but I think the difference for me is, and I'm listening to it and having watched various other things like this before, the difference for me is the information that's been given out already. As a journalist of 40 years, it's very not very often in a situation as serious as this that you get the police talking to the media and releasing this kind of information, and they've done it very quickly. And one would say that's in response to the Southport murders, and yes, it's right that the public needs to know what happened. Obviously, they can't give every detail away because, as you've said, this man has to be talked to. But it's a shocking end to what should have been a fantastically happy day, and the city will be devastated. It will take them time to get over this.
It will. We don't know if this is terrorism related. We don't know anything about this at the moment. A 53-year-old, they're saying a 53-year-old white British man is currently in custody. We're going to have to wait and see exactly what the motivation is here. There is, as always happens in these incidents, more and more footage emerges, especially as posted on social media. And the footage that I've seen of the earliest bit of this incident is a car, a people carrier, stationary, with people around it doing things like punching the back windows, punching the side windows, and they've ripped the rear windscreen wiper off. We don't know what's caused that, but I'm just saying that's the earliest bit of it that I can then see. The car then reverses back to strike a man who was on the back of his car and then has gone forward, and I'm sure we're all aware of what happens next. It then ploughs through and continues to plough through a group of Liverpool fans. Mike, I'll come to you. Former Scotland Yard detective. I'm sure you've seen the footage. We're not, for obvious reasons, playing all of it now. What do you think this is?
Well, my expertise is CCTV evidence and convicting people through CCTV evidence. What the police will be looking for is obviously the motivation now. Is it a terrorist-related incident? Is it a criminal with some kind of a grievance against people? Is it somebody? Is it a road rage attack? Is there a defect in the vehicle? Is there a medical? Has the man suffered a medical emergency? And there'll be. Due to the seriousness of the incident, the police will form this gold, silver, bronze level. So there'll be a gold officer, something like an assistant chief constable. But I probably think the chief constable and the police and crime commissioner are briefing the Home Secretary and the Prime Minister at the moment. Then there'll be silver, which is a sort of a detective superintendent in overall charge of the incident. And then there's what they call bronzes. So there'll be a bronze team under an inspector, which will be gathering all the intelligence. So there'll be a bronze team searching this man's house because the man will have a mobile phone, he'll have a computer and all that. What's his motivation here? Can we see anything there? And then there'll be a bronze team tasked to gather all this CCTV and social media footage, and there'll be other teams dealing with the actual incident. So the police have got a real structure to deal with this, and one of the key things we'll do to be find out motivation. But I can only echo Carol's words that the key thing for me is that the press have done they've done the right thing. We had Nicola Bulley, and then we had Southport, where this void was created, which people rapidly fill, and we saw the awfulness of the Nicola Bulley missing persons thing, where people become all weird conspiracy theories, and then at Southport we saw the riots that occurred because of misinformation, and I think the police have done the right thing by getting this out.
I think, yeah, I mean, look, a lot of people are saying, well, they hope that maybe this sets a precedent going forward. If releasing certain information is not, as it turns out, likely to prejudice a particular trial, then perhaps we can have a consistent thing here now. Just before I bring my other two panellists in, I hope you don't mind, I'm just going to replay this eyewitness clip. So this is a man who was speaking to our reporter, Jack Carson, at the scene, who said he saw the incident. Here's what he had to say.
So what is your reaction to what's gone on today?
I just think this is absolute tragedy. What we're all witnessing now, mate, is like I'm going to swear, but who left this road open, honestly, because all the other roads around the city are like blocked. From 9 a.m. this morning when I'm driving around, it was all blocked, and this main road here, this was a recipe for disaster, a perfect storm, and then poor people who've basically been run over there. It's like, this ain't no accident. Why have the council left this road open? And I'm sorry, mate, if that upsets people, but at the end of the day, people need to be held accountable for this, because this is banged out of order, yeah? And I just want to leave it really there, because at the end of that's like, I'm proper upset over this shit.
In the video, what are you feeling seeing that video?
Multiple videos, mate, and I don't know, like you say, the numbers, the speculation on like how many people, but the serious injuries going down, do you get what I mean? It's like, and this road should never have ever been left open. It was inevitable this was going to happen, wasn't it? So.
And with, of course, today being a day of celebration for Liverpool, it turned so quickly after the parade had finished.
Yeah, I know, because that's what happens when you leave a road open, yeah, and everyone's buried and cars are driving down. That's going to happen, and then people have been run over because
I'm going to take you straight over to our Home and Security Editor, Mark White, now, who I believe has got some update for us from the North West Ambulance Service. Mark.
Well, I was reporting just 50 minutes ago or so about more than a dozen people having been injured. Another source suggesting that actually that may be dozens, plural, injured in this incident. We have had a statement from North West Ambulance Service just now, not on the numbers, but they're saying North West Ambulance Service has now cleared the scene following the incident in Liverpool and will be updating on casualty numbers at a press conference scheduled for later tonight. Details of that press conference will be announced shortly. So some significant news there anyway in terms of North West Ambulance Service confirming that they have actually now cleared the scene. They've dealt with the last of the casualties at the scene of this incident that unfolded at 6 o'clock this evening. I was reporting, as I say, more than a dozen injured. Now another source saying to me that actually we may be looking at dozens injured as a result of this horrific event that unfolded at 6 o'clock this evening in Liverpool city centre.
Mark, thank you very, very much. An important update, that. So the scene itself appears to have been cleared of casualties. That number of casualties, however, may have gone from, say, a dozen to dozens, plural. We'll keep you up to date on all of that. Again, I just want to stress, you know, our thoughts, everyone's thoughts, are with every single person who's been affected here, with the city of Liverpool, with Liverpool fans. It's crossed footballing divides. It's crossed every kind of divide, really. You've even got Manchester United putting out a statement, you know, saying their hearts are with everyone. I am joined by my panel. I'm going to go to former Conservative MP Alex Stafford on this now. Alex, how important is it, do you think, in light of previous incidents, that the police, that the authorities, that our politicians get this right now, get the information right, and tell us what they need to tell us?
Well, yeah, on this sort of absolute devastating day, it's so essential that everyone has the information so people don't jump to conclusions. I think we've all seen, well, most of us have seen the videos go around, the horrific videos go around on Twitter or the internet, and the authorities know that's going to be out there. They can't sort of hide it anymore. They can't try and sort of control the information. That information is out there, and unless there's official sources telling people what actually is going on, we've seen in the past, people will interpret it one way or conspiracy theories the other way. So I think it's essential, and I'm very pleased that the police put out the statement hours ago now about the sort of type of person who committed the attack. After all, the video showing the person doing it was clearly a white man in a car, was going out straight away on the internet. So it's good the police are confirming that information, because the last thing you want to do in such a volatile situation, such a febrile atmosphere, I think we've got to be honest, the country itself is quite on tenterhooks about this sort of incident anyway.
Yeah.
The correct information is put out as quickly as possible. And it's good to hear the ambulance service are saying they're going to have a press conference now. They've cleared the scene. Personally, I'd like to have even more information as soon as possible to give people some sort of scale.
Well, on that, actually, I'm going to go back to Mark White, our Home and Security editor, who I believe has a little bit more information for us now. So Mark's just getting himself locked and loaded and ready for us. But yeah, the latest that we heard from Mark was, firstly, that counterterrorism police are involved. Secondly, that the number of casualties may indeed be higher than the dozens. Mark, what's the latest, please?
Well, this is now word from the NHS University's Liverpool Hospitals Liverpool group, who are dealing with casualties, and they are being inundated by calls from worried members of the public. You would understand that, but they are now putting out a desperate call to the public not to call them, that they will be in touch with the public as and when they can get the details of those casualties and then get the members of the public informed. This is the statement they've just said. Following the incident in Liverpool city centre this evening, we know that many people are concerned about loved ones. Next of kin will be contacted, so please help us to manage the incident as best as we can by refraining from calling our switchboard. The switchboard is just absolutely jammed. It's understandable. There are many thousands of people who are out on the streets of Liverpool today joining in those celebrations, worried loved ones back home, desperate to know if their family member or friend may have been caught up in this horrific event. But in doing that, they're just basically jamming up the switchboards at this hospital at a time when staff need to be free to concentrate on dealing with the significant number of casualties. As I said just before, it's gone from more than a dozen to now talking in terms of potentially dozens of people who have been injured.
Yeah, Mark, thank you very, very much for that. Completely understandable, by the way. I'm just going to bring in another member of my panel now, Chris Worrell, political activist. Completely understandable, Chris. That, you know, this is hundreds of thousands of people out in the city centre. People, relatives who know that they've got friends or family there will be seeing this on far. They probably can't get through. I mean, we actually had someone that works in this office who was there. Because there were so many people around, your phone signal's gone, isn't it, at the best of times? We couldn't get through to him. We would think he is all right, by the way. So you can understand why people are desperately ringing the hospital switchboards, just trying to get any information, aren't they?
Yeah, I mean, if your family out on a day celebrating a Premier League title and you know, tragedies like this happen, it does sort of put a chilling effect on the day, and obviously I can imagine the sort of stress those families are going through if they can't get through to their loved ones having seen it. I think some of the points that were made about information being out there quickly. It's like, we're seeing these footage coming off on the internet pretty quickly anyway.
Yeah.
And you're piecing bits together of all the stuff that you're told not to share it. I mean, I don't, but it's there for information purposes. And what was seen is some of the earlier footage was, people trying to get in his car before he finished the ramming. So you don't know whether there's, a panic or a mental health issue, or there was something that was, that led to that. But what was interesting about the interview there with the Eyewitness was he was saying that it doesn't seem like the road was closed off, and it seemed a bit bizarre that it wasn't, and it was kind of an accident waiting to happen. So, I mean, if you're taking that for what it's worth, then there might be more, things at play.
I think this is a perfect example of, how the police and the media can work together. They used to work very well, especially in tragedies like this, where they were giving out information, and this was before the social media age. But since then, social media means that the public are getting misinformation all of the time. What you see isn't necessarily exactly what's happened. And I think, all police now, we saw after Southport, because they didn't communicate properly with the media, we saw what happened. This is the perfect time for them to do that, because the media are incredibly helpful at times like this. I mean, they work in sync, and together it can be an incredible force for good. Whereas we saw with Southport, that just did not happen. You starve the media of information. What happens is you get half stories from social media, and it isn't the story, and it's upsetting. People might hear stuff about their families that is not true. It can be devastating. So I would say now to the cops here, they should keep on feeding this stuff out as often as they can, so that people don't get hurt.
I mean, Mike, look, do you think there's any chance that this is an accident? Or from what you see?
From what I've said, it doesn't seem to be an accident at all, but everything must... When you're that detective investigating this, you've got to look at everything. There'll be a specialist team which is now examining that vehicle. Is there any faults with that vehicle? Because somebody could claim there are faults and this is why it happened. So let's find out what the facts are around the vehicle. They'll be looking at the driver and his medical records. They'll be looking at as I say, investigating his devices. What websites has he been looking at? What's his criminal past? Because all these will indicate towards a motive for his actions.
Yeah, and in terms of what the police will be doing now, Mike, they'll be interviewing, and we had someone on earlier on who said that that depending on what condition the driver's in, it could actually be quite a while before they're allowed to interview him.
It depends. If let's say, for example, this is a case of drink driving or mental illness, the man will be examined by a doctor at the police station, and then be deemed fit or not fit to be interviewed. But what the police will be doing as well, they want to interview him firstly to get some his initial comments, but they'll also be gathering all sorts of CCTV evidence to put to this character to say, what is this all about?
Don't you think, Mike, I think it's the fact that the ambulance now they've cleared the scene in just 3 hours. I think that's a very good sign, do you not?
Well, it could be a good sign, but the trouble is, and my wife's a nurse in a very busy hospital, there can be awful things happen. The ambulance service are very professional. They can deal with things quickly. And the tragedy is if somebody's dead, it's quicker to move them than if they're seriously injured and alive. So let's hope that everybody's alive, everybody's safe. But I just think the police have got the right structures to investigate this, and they'll be looking at every angle to find out the motivation of this man.
Yeah, indeed. Look, again, if anyone's just joining us, then I will give you the up-to-date facts as we have them. At about 6 p.m. today on Water Street in Liverpool, as Liverpool fans, potentially hundreds of thousands of them, were celebrating their team's 20th Premier League title. A man, we think, according to Merseyside police, to be a 53-year-old white British man, drove a car through a crowd of people. The footage of that is absolutely devastating. It appears to be deliberate. The footage would indicate that. We have not had any additional response yet from the police. We have got no update on casualties from the emergency services. We are expecting both of those things soon. We had an eyewitness report earlier on for you, which was begging serious questions about how on earth was anyone able to drive down here. That's going to be the debrief, isn't it? I think for a lot of people thinking. But can I ask you, Alex? As a former MP, when you were, in your position, I don't know if anything quite like this happened in your area, but do MPs get a phone call to say, look, this has happened? Do you end up getting given more information initially? How does it work?
In the long and short, yes. Generally, MPs would, whether that's from the authorities, such as the council or the PCC, if not the case, or even the Home Office. You generally get a call or even a WhatsApp. Actually, most things seem to be run on the Conservative government on WhatsApp message anyway. Just this is what's happening. You were given a bit more information. You weren't given there was not like a secret dossier of what actually happened and you're not told everyone, but you're given the most up-to-date current information. And more importantly, you had the opportunity to speak to the highest levels, whether it's the police, the ambulance service, to actually raise questions, mainly questions about what is the seriousness of it. And generally, you would be told, this is what's going to happen. Do what you can to calm tensions, for instance, or actually be honest about people, because the MPs for the area of Liverpool will also be now inundated. We heard the ambulance service, the hospitals are inundated with people calling. The MPs of the area, I'm sure, will be getting hundreds upon hundreds of messages.
Are you told specifically to try to do what you can to calm tensions? Is that a thing?
Sometimes we're told, or have been told that, you know, especially this happened during COVID, to try and actually keep things calm and actually give a proper information. Let's be honest, politicians like, I'm a politician here, spouting at their mouth, making a big splash on social media, whatever. But politicians also have a key job, a key responsibility in the community to be quite level-headed, especially when it comes to such a serious matter. I think what's going to be really important, though, is what's going to happen to the investigation now afterwards, as the Eyewitness said, about how did this incident happen. And I think from the footage that I've seen before the car, well, for one, the video showed the car going, the car wasn't that far away from a police van. There were dozens, frankly, of police officers standing near the car. Obviously, I don't know what happened or how the car got there, but the question is, there were police there.
Here we go. Sorry to cut across you there, but this is footage that we are playing. Let's just try to keep this on repeat for a moment, because I've wanted to show this footage for a little while. This is the grey people carrier driving down Water Street. Now, the door opens, so someone tries to open that guy's car door, and they do get it open. The driver then shuts the door. Now, if you look at the back window there, that's intact, isn't it, there, I think? Because the footage that I've seen must then be a bit after this, because then you see people around the car hitting the vehicle, smashing the rear window, and then the car reverses and speeds forward. So that, I really do think, is the earliest footage that we've got of that. And here is the aftermath. Police swarming that vehicle. Liverpool fans, and by the way, I can completely understand this. I'm not in any way, shape or form having a go at them, trying to get to the guy in the car. The police trying to fend them off. There's other footage from closer up of the guy, you know, taking some serious punishment, really, from the people around him. The police then grab him, dash him into a police van as quickly as he possibly can. Again, people seem to be getting around it. So that was your reaction to that. I mean, that's really quite astonishing footage, isn't it? Really. I mean, do you think the police deserve some credit there for actually, you know, stopping? As devastating as this is, I mean, do you think the police deserve a bit of credit for not letting the crowd go?
Well, I mean, maybe. I think there's a lot of people there that will be wondering, you know, how did they get so quick to stop the police, the actual people around them getting to him, rather than, you know, stopping him from getting through? That's the real question here at the end of the day. And we've seen, you know, there was clearly something not right for them to be pulling that door open before he's then gone and run all those people over. So, you know, and I just find it a bit, it doesn't make sense. It
doesn't make sense at the moment. There's a lot of unanswered questions. I'm hoping that we're going to get some answers. Just have a look at that, Mark. And I don't know, by the way, if we might be able to just... Oh, sorry, I need to go to Jack Carson, who's our reporter on the ground. Jack is with us now. Jack, what's going on where you are?
Well, we've seen more ambulances. I was bringing you a little bit earlier on that there are still multiple ambulances arriving on scene. They have continued to arrive over the course of the last hour or so to deal with the incident down there. I'm just going to step out the way so you can see exactly the scene behind me as we describe what's been going on. You can see the cordon here. That was moved up the street a little bit earlier on as they cleared the people that were still in the shops and the bars and the restaurants down there. We know from people that have walked by us that there are are numerous bars around where the incident has taken place that have been cleared of people as well. That is to ensure that Merseyside police have a clear area in order for them to be able to begin their investigations as well. We've had more cones and cordons placed around the incident as well, and see scientific support unit vans with Merseyside police vans with the word scientific support unit written on the side of them are parked up closer to the incident as well. That suggests they are part of the investigations that are now ongoing, and the scene here is a lot calmer in terms of the response than it was just a short couple of hours ago. And the incident happening so soon after the Liverpool players on the open-top bus had taken their victory parade by the Liver building. There were fireworks, there were smoke flares, and in some of the images and videos that you can see on social media, the videos that we have been able to play you this evening, you can see in the background red smoke flares still being held by the Liverpool fans because they were just walking just moments before witnessing the trophy parade. That is, just want to give you a sense of how soon after the trophy victory parade happened here in Liverpool today that incident then took place. A mere half an hour, certainly less than an hour after that incident, many thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of fans that had been coming to Liverpool today to celebrate that league title win, and this incident changing the mood entirely so soon afterwards. A lot of people here still shocked, a lot of people here angry. You heard the witness that we spoke to a little bit earlier on. Immediately he was distressed, but also raising questions around exactly how this incident could well have happened. And the scene here, we've seen briefings with different officers take place as, of course, they go about securing this scene for those investigations to take place. Just to bring you some quotes from Home Secretary Yvette Cooper. She's called this truly shocking. She says, "Thank you to the police and the emergency services for their swift response for this truly shocking and horrendous scenes in Liverpool this evening." She says she is thinking of all of those affected at this very difficult time. The police are investigating, and she says she's being kept up to date on developments. A lot of Liverpool fans angry because of many people have described to us today, being a Liverpool fan is like being part of a second family, and so they feel very much that this is a personal attack on one of their own, that this incident that has taken place and the people that have been involved in this incident are one of their family. And across Liverpool today, the footballing family coming together as Everton Football Club also say that their thoughts are with all of those who have been affected by this serious incident in our city. The Premier League releasing a statement saying everyone at the Premier League is shocked by the appalling events in Liverpool this evening, and their thoughts go out to all of those injured and affected. They say they have been in contact with Liverpool Football Club. Liverpool Football Club also confirming to us this evening as well that they are being kept up to date by the police because of how many of their fans may well have been involved in this incident as well.
Sorry to cut you off, Jack. Thank you very much. There's Jack Carlson there, who's our reporter on the scene, who's been doing some stellar work for us there. We'll go back to Jack if there are any updates. It appears as though that area has been cleared. Shortly, we're going to have some breaking news from Mark White, our Home and Security editor. I do just want to raise something with you, which is that initially we were told that a 53-year-old white British man has been arrested after a car hit several pedestrians. I will now stress that it is becoming increasingly unsure as to whether or not the 53-year-old man was the driver of that car. I'm wondering whether or not Mark White, our Home and Security editor, might have an update on this. But, Mark, thank you very much. Take it away.
Yeah, I'm just hearing from a senior source now that investigators at this stage do not believe that this was a terrorist-related incident. Now, that doesn't mean, of course, that it wasn't a deliberate act. There are lots of potential motivations for why someone might be involved in a deliberate act that isn't necessarily terrorism, as we've seen with multiple incidents in the past. But the information that I'm getting from this source is that at this early stage, those investigators do not believe that the avenue that this investigation is taking them down is one towards a terrorist-related incident. The caveat being, it's worth repeating, that doesn't mean that this wasn't a deliberate incident, and that will become clear in the minutes and hours ahead. We might get some indication at this news conference with the police, fire and ambulance service that's taking place a little later this evening. We might not. You know, sometimes they're very sort of guarded in what they put out there in the early stages of something like this. But I think that's an important line that's worth bringing to you and just repeating one more time, as that's investigators who have been called in, who are carrying out this investigation at this stage at least, do not believe that this was a terrorist-related incident.
Yeah, Mark, thank you. I don't know if you're able to clear something up for us. There's a bit of confusion at the moment. Do we think that the 53-year-old man arrested, the one that police are describing as a white British man, do we believe he is the driver, or do we just not know at the moment?
Yes. No, he's believed to be the driver of the vehicle. The police haven't said that in terms, but that's what I've been told.
OK, thank you, Mark. Cheers for that. And we'll go back to Mark very, very shortly. It's Mark White there, our Home Security Editor. We do have waiting on the line for us, and thank you very much for waiting for us for quite some time, actually. It's former Superintendent Shabnam Chowdhury. Shabnam, a pleasure to have you on the show, albeit under incredibly depressing and distressing circumstances. We are expecting a press conference shortly with all the emergency services. How much detail do you think they'll give us there?
Oh, good evening, Patrick. I think the information will be limited. I think, as your reporters just said, that I think they've just mentioned that they don't believe it to be terrorist related, but that's not to say that it's not a criminal investigation. I think the information will be limited. There may be information on the casualties, the number of casualties, whether there are any fatalities, and let's just hope that there aren't, and how quickly the investigation is progressing. Remember, this incident took place about 4 hours ago, so this individual would have been taken into custody. He would have been booked into police custody. He would have been had some forensic samples taken. They won't eliminate the fact that he will have blood and urine taken, and then they'll be looking at potential motives for this particular incident, whether it's deliberate or what has actually happened and what caused him to drive through those thousands of people to then result in what has actually happened.
Indeed. And Shabnam, can I ask you to comment? I'm assuming that you might have seen some of the footage that's doing the rounds online. We actually did play out a little bit earlier on some footage of the police swarming the car. I don't know if we might be able to dig that back out, actually. What do you make of the police response to that car ploughing into people? So what do you make of what we've seen?
Well, I think they were very quick to respond. I think let's hope that their very quick response has prevented further casualties. It seemed to be pandemonium and panic with regards to the car driving off, the door opening and then suddenly closing. What caused the individual to do that? Why were people attacking the car prior to that? The fact that it reversed and then went speeding forward. It's definitely, I think you mentioned earlier on, certainly an unusual type of attack. And this vehicle seemed to have appeared out of nowhere. I know there are other cars on the street, but did it come from a distance in the street, or did it just pull out from somewhere and then try to drive off and people tried to stop it at a very, very quick space, within a quick space of time? Yeah.
Is it... I don't know. We're taking live shots at the moment of the street. Police, ambulance crews still there. They've been clearing that incident. I don't know if it is possible to just play those two clips that we showed before of what appeared to maybe be the start of the incident and then that police response, because I would appreciate it if maybe Shabnam could commentate over it. But Shabnam, a lot of people are asking, including eyewitnesses, how on earth a car was even in that position? You've got however many tens, if not hundreds of thousands of people there. How was the car allowed there? Is that a security failure, do you think?
I think it's definitely got to be looked at in terms of the operational decisions that were made in respect of working together with the local authorities when this was a pre-planned event, and people would know that thousands of revellers would be there celebrating, and how were they going to manage this with the most, the best safety advice in place with regards to road closures and having cars being able to come in and out. Really, did they consider whether the only vehicles that should have been able to come in and out would have been the emergency responders, or did they close off some roads and then start reopening them later in the day? So this will all actually be looked at as to why these decisions were made, and did this result, obviously it contributed in respect of the fact that the vehicle was freely driving. In my personal experience, when you've got that many people coming to an event, it doesn't make a lot of sense to me as to why vehicles are allowed to continue to drive through that particular location. And when you look at the heightened security threats that we face, and current climate across globally, what's going on, then why were these operational decisions made in the way that they were, and what was considered in terms of risk and safety to the general public?
OK, look, Shona, thank you very, very much. That, of course, is former police officer there. Thank you so much for your time and sitting on the line. I do just want to actually make a point out of some of the footage that we've seen earlier on. Bearing in mind that we had no idea, and the people on the scene, the Liverpool fans there, would have had absolutely no idea about who was in the car, what the motives were. They will have just seen the worst and feared the worst. And I think the bravery of a lot of those fans running there, opening the car doors, trying to get in, nullifying the driver. They didn't know who that person was. No one knew anything about him. You think the worst, don't you? The person could have had a bomb on him, he could have had a gun on him, he could have had anything on him. And the fans there, running there to try to nullify an incident. I mean, I actually just think this is an incredibly heroic thing. And it's actually something we're going to talk about in just a second with my panel. But it is now about 6 minutes past 10. You are watching an extended version of Patrick Christys tonight, and of course, that is because of the major breaking news. OK, so Merseyside police have confirmed a 53-year-old white British man has been arrested after a car ploughed into a crowd of people during Liverpool FC's Premier League victory parade. GBNews has confirmed now that counterterrorism police are investigating the incident that occurred earlier this evening. Moments ago, GBNews reporter Jack Carson spoke to one eyewitness at the scene.
So what is your reaction to what's gone on today?
I just think this is absolute tragedy. What we're all witnessing now, mate, is like who I'm going to swear, but who left this road open?
The incident occurred in Liverpool city centre. If you're watching us on television or online, you're seeing a map of that now. And this is the end of the parade route. The Liverpool team were on an open-top bus going through the city, as is, of course, usual when you win a Premier League or a major trophy. You'll see on the left side of your screens the site where several pedestrians were hit by a car. We've marked it there for you. If you're listening to us on radio, it's Water Street is the name of that road. Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer said, "The scenes in Liverpool are appalling. My thoughts are with all those injured or affected. I want to thank the police and emergency services for their swift and ongoing response to this shocking incident. I'm being kept updated on developments and ask that we give the police the space they need." As ever, I'm going to bring you all of the breaking news as we get it. I've got a wonderful panel with me, though, this evening. We've got former Conservative MP Alex Stafford, journalist and broadcaster Carol Malone, political activist Chris Worrell, and Mike Neville as well, former Scotland Yard detective. And I just want to make something very, very clear, because we've been playing a lot of footage. It's a fast-moving picture, as everyone will appreciate. And in describing the earliest footage that we've got, which appears to show a car, surrounded by Liverpool fans and people punching the car, etc., I'm not for 1 second trying to blame Liverpool fans for for anything here. We've got no idea what led up to it. I was simply just describing what I was seeing, and then the aftermath. And actually, Alex, you made a tremendous point there about the bravery of those fans running towards that car.
Well, yeah, I think we see so often nowadays, unfortunately, when crime goes on in front of people turning a blind eye. My reading of the footage, look at the footage, is there was a serious incident, a car had run into a crowd of people. If that happened in front of me, thoughts go off my head, it could be a bomb, could be a terrorist, could be whatever. But these Liverpool fans ran towards the danger. They tried, how I see it, to try to nullify the danger, try and get the driver out to stop any further damage being done. But you've got to remember, all they know at the time is there was a car relatively fast-moving through a crowd of people, and it had been stopped. But it could go on again. We saw from the footage already, the car had already gone from stationary to into the crowd. And I think it's incredibly brave, all those Liverpool fans, to actually run up to the car, try smash the windows, try pull the driver out to stop it doing any further damage. So I think this actually shows the people of Liverpool, the Liverpool fans, heroism when it comes to trying to nullify a clear and present danger that could have gone on. A car is an incredibly heavy, incredibly dangerous vehicle, and it can do serious, serious damage, even at low speed. So I think to those fans that initially got there before the police to try and nullify it, good on you. Thank you for trying to save more lives.
Carol, I mean, this is the kind of thing that you sadly, you do mentally prepare yourself to be in a situation a bit like this in this day and age in this country, don't you? But you hope it never happens to you.
Anyone who knows Liverpool won't be, and its people won't be the least bit surprised by that and what's just been described. I mean, I would absolutely expect them to do that. That's what they're like. In fact, all around that devastating scene, you know, restaurants were opening their doors, bars were opening their doors, people, they were taking them in, they were helping patch them up until the paramedics arrived. This is absolutely typical of Liverpool. They rally round. It's like one great big family, and they do rally round in times of things. I think it's also worth pointing out as well, you know, Mark before just said that now they're saying they're ruling terror out, hopefully. You know, there's not much relief in this situation, but as you described before, with a terrorist incident, you might expect a follow-up. You might be scared of a follow-up. And now that Counterterrorism said they don't think it is that if there's any relief to be in this situation, maybe that's it.
Yeah, indeed. And I'm joined by Mike Neville as well here, who is a former Scotland Yard detective. Mike, in situations like this, how heavily do the police actually lean on members of the public to be the first ones there sometimes, right on the scene to help them out?
Well, in this situation, the public were there, weren't they? So they're going to help them. But the police were very swift to react. It's right that the fans were trying their best, but then the police move in. They've got the training to try and stop it, to try and deal with it. And ultimately, the police's job is to keep the king's peace. If they dragged the man out and stopped him, then the police take hold of him, take him away. He's got to be dealt with properly in an investigation. But the fans are right to feel anger, and the fans, as has been said, were very brave to try and stop this incident.
Indeed. Chris, and look, by the way, I'm not drawing any parallels between this and actual terrorist attacks that we've seen before, but the London Bridge incident, you had that guy who was, you know, paraphrasing what he said, he'd get lost on Millwall, and he was there. You had the incident as well, the Fishmongers' Hall, where members of the public, I mean, one guy found a narwhal tusk from somewhere, I don't even know where we found that, and then started going at the guy. I'm not trying to say this is a terrorist attack like that, but what I am saying, Chris, is, you know, at times like this, I am constantly amazed by the bravery of a lot of people who are around there who go and you know, go and try and get involved.
Well, it was clear that people, members of the public, you know, just at the end of the celebration line, were just finding something was not quite right. And the fact that there was a car allowed to go down the road with 1,000 people in the middle of the street is nuts. And the fact that, you know, the police were acting swiftly, and I think there was some footage where, you know, they were hoisting him in the back of the van, and that's to say the crowds were baying, and you can understand why. I mean, there was witnessed that. But, you know, it does bring it back. You know, Liverpool has been you know, they've suffered enough with, like, crowd control issues, and whether this guy was we've said it's not a terrorist, you know, lone act of a mass casualty, using a vehicle, you know, for whatever reasons that he may be doing it. Regardless of all of that, you know, how does a car get down that road?
Yeah, 100%. Look, we all want this. I especially, I want more details on this driver, because we've been told we think it's a 53-year-old white British man. The age thing, I've just got a little bit of a feeling about. We'll have to wait. See, we're going to get a press conference soon, and we're going to take it to you live. It's very, very hard to tell from the footage that we have out there now. All I will say is this, is that in some of the footage I've seen, He looks very young for 53, right?
Patrick, the police will have inquiries. The police will know exactly who this man right now. They will know more. They know more about him, and they should be releasing that. Let's have some clarity, and that calms the situation down.
It does calm it down. I think I might be able to go to an eyewitness now, I believe. Rick Horton, yes, I can. Rick, I think you are about to pop up live for us on GB News. Rick, thank you very much for joining us. Firstly, are you all right?
Yeah, I'm fine. I was on the parade route. I must admit, I didn't witness the event itself, but we kind of witnessed the aftermath. I mean, when can anyone on your panel remember the last time they saw a policeman or woman running at breakneck speed? So we were on the Strand, which was the final part of the Liverpool parade, and all of a sudden, we didn't hear anything, we didn't see anything. All of a sudden, we saw 25 coppers kind of just drop everything and run. I mean, and when I say run, I mean sprint. And when you see that, you're like, wow, something's going on here. So that's what we saw. But I think that the thing about today is that I've been to very many Liverpool parades, certainly 3 in the last few years, and I've never seen so many people in the city as I saw today. They reckon 1 million people. I think it might have even been more. The entire 15-kilometre parade route was absolutely jam-packed. Everyone was having a great time. There was families, there was people in wheelchairs, there was every walk of life was there celebrating this amazing Premier League trophy. And then we're now on GB News talking about this. And it's just such a disappointment. It really is.
It's devastating on numerous different counts. And look, at some point this evening, we're going to get an update on casualties. Our Home Security editor, Mark White, said that the latest update that he has is that it's in the dozens. The hospital switchboards, they're asking people not to call in. They're going to inform the next of kin. It's not going to be good news, Rick. And Liverpool doesn't need, Liverpool fans don't need any reminding of tragedies hitting their fan base, do they? Rick, the aftermath, though, so you saw police officers running around. What were the noises going around the crowd? Because, I mean, that must have been chaotic. As far as you're concerned, it could have been anything, couldn't it? I mean, it could have been there was someone with a knife, or there's a bomb, or what was the general, what were people saying?
To be honest, everyone was celebrating. It was towards the end of the parade. So it was like out of the corner of our eyes, we just saw police take off and run. So everyone else was celebrating, and it wasn't until, social media in Liverpool is massive, as it is everywhere. But, within 30 seconds, pictures, videos, and comments were going around social media. So we were kind of like, wow, OK, something's happened on Water Street. The one thing I realised straight away is that Water Street, which Dale Street leads onto, is a one-way street. So for that car to have gone onto Water Street, it went up the wrong way on the one-way street. So I imagine that's why people started to flag it straight away. We've heard stories about Liverpool fans trying to stop the car going up the street. Anyone would have done, to be honest, because it was going up the wrong way on a one-way street. So that particular street, Water Street, Dale Street, leads down towards the Strand, and it's one way. This hasn't happened. The cars come up the other way, as I understand it. So that was ringing alarm bells for everyone.
You know the area intimately, and you were literally right there. So can you have any idea about how on earth you think that's happened then? Because if you said you've never seen more people in Liverpool city centre, you've been to 3 open-top bus parades before, this is the busiest it's ever been, you've got police everywhere, emergency everywhere, and yet, somehow a car has got through Liverpool city centre, gone the wrong way down a one-way street. It seems a bit odd. I mean, how's he ended up there?
Yeah, I really, really question this, because we I live in West Derby Village, which is about 5 miles out of the city centre. But the parade goes past West Derby Village before it turns towards the city centre. So we went there to watch the early part of the parade. And I could not believe that they had not closed the roads. So there was cars still trying to get through on one side of the road, opposed to where the parade buses were coming. And I could not believe that they were allowing cars to go through that bit. I mean, it was full of families and kids and people in wheelchairs and stuff, but they were still letting cars through. Couldn't believe that. And then when we got to the city centre, I was like, oh my God, like they have not closed these roads. You know, so where the parade was coming, yeah, okay, that was closed. But the opposite side, the opposite carriageway was still open. And people literally in West Derby Village, they were parking in the middle of the street to get a look at the parade. So it was absolute carnage, but they never, ever closed the roads.
I find that absolutely staggering, Rick. I think we all do, actually, everyone here. So you've got however many hundreds of thousands of Liverpool fans there, and you're all looking at each other and being like, why are they not closing the roads? There's cars parking up. When you put it like that, and this, by the way, is awful. I mean, it's unimaginably awful. When you put it like that, I mean, this could have been so much worse. I can't believe it. Were you all looking at each other thinking, how is this being allowed to happen?
When I was at West Derby, at what they call the Jolly Miller, which is the pub when they come off the main ring road of Liverpool and then head in towards the city, so it's a major junction. There was many, many people going, why have they not stopped the traffic? And at one point, an articulated lorry came down and we thought, well, we're not going to be able to see the parade because he's going to block our view. But then someone else said, wow, how are they allowing cars to come through this area, which at that stage was full of pedestrians?
Can I ask you something now? You know, bearing in mind that, you know, a man has been arrested and we're going to get a press conference at some point. But Rick, you're there. I'm assuming you've got family and friends that are all there. You know, you know people around the area. What on earth do you think has gone on here?
Do you know what? I think the main thing for me and us, my friends and my family, is that this was the most wonderful day. It was a celebration. It was raining. Everyone went out. Everyone was cheering. Everyone had a flag. Everyone had a scarf. We were there. It was a celebration of being a Scouser and a Liverpool fan. Absolute celebration. And then when the news started trickling through at around 6 p.m, everyone, it was just a massive downer. And I think initially we thought terrorism. I personally have seen the video that many have on social media. To me, it doesn't look like terrorism. It looks like a car that's lost control. I don't know. But it makes no difference. I think one of the best days this city has ever seen has been tainted. And that's a shocking, shocking thing because it was joyous. And now we're all gutted.
Yeah. Do you know anyone who's been caught up in this? We were hearing that hospital switchboards are ringing off it. There may well, unfortunately, be dozens of casualties and things. You know, are you hearing of anyone who's got a loved one who's been caught up in this?
I've heard numerous things from friends, colleagues, and family. I've heard, and this is by no way confirmed, but I've heard there have been 2 fatalities today and many, many injuries. I just hope that everyone concerned and their families and their friends can get together and do what they can to support each other. It's not a nice thing, this.
No.
Our city's been through it loads, as you know. But this at a celebration, it's just nuts.
Well, Rick, thank you for making the time to talk to us tonight and for being so coherent through what has just been, I can only imagine, a absolutely horrific, emotional rollercoaster of a day. It's Rick Horton there, who was in that initial celebration and then, of course, followed by the carnage. I will just stress we're going to get a update from the authorities, including, I would imagine, the ambulance services, etc., shortly. We'll bring that to you live on GBNews. Thank you very much, Rick. You take care. Look after yourself. We're going to get an update from them shortly. Rick mentioned there that the word on the street in Liverpool there was that potentially there have been 2 fatalities. It's not been confirmed. We'll bring that to you if we get it. I think probably in a few minutes' time we might have some confirmation or otherwise on that. Carol, listening to Rick there, you know, what were your impressions of what he had to say?
Yeah, I mean, he just confirmed, you know, tonight, just a bit earlier, the council leader, Liam Robinson, said that, you know, this had cast a very dark shadow on what had been a joyous day, and Nick's just confirmed that. But I think we have to be careful not to stray into territory, and I think we are a little bit, although unconsciously, because we're looking for reasons why, about not blaming people. We're talking about why weren't streets closed. We don't know that yet. We have to wait and find out why streets weren't closed. There could have been a very good reason. There can't have been no planning around this event. Maybe the cops didn't know how many people were going to turn out. You know, Rick's just said 1 million. I probably wasn't that many, but it was probably more than anyone expected. So I think we just have to be careful, don't we, not to be blaming anybody.
Can I say, Carol?
Until we confirm whether people have.
I mean, what strikes me is that. I mean, my hometown, Bolton, you know, they don't win very much, so it would be a rare event if anything happened there. But Liverpool Football Club are a very, very successful team, you know. And as the gentleman said, this is the 3rd or 4th time he's been to this event. So you'd think the planning with this, you know, there would be liaison between the police and the local authority and the highways agency to hear that, Rick saying that there's been lorries driving past. Have people just got a bit blasé here? You know, what's gone wrong here? Because we see in London the way that they can, cut off roads and all this. And this is obviously going to be an important part of any subsequent inquiry into this. But it does strike me as odd because you'd think Liverpool would be able to handle.
Just if you are watching us online or on telly, in fact, then you're looking there at the empty microphone desks of a press conference that is about to take place. So as soon as we see police officers, members of the health services and all of that take to that bench there, we're going to take that to you live. So that would indicate to me that a press conference with a lot of detail that needs to be cleared up is going to take place imminently. So don't go anywhere. If you're listening on radio and you're in your car, you know, maybe just pull the car over, sit down and get ready to listen to this, because there's going to be a huge amount of unanswered questions. As it stands, we think that the 53-year-old quote-unquote white British man who's been arrested is the driver. We're not 100% sure of that. We don't know any motives. We don't know the number of casualties. We don't know the number of fatalities, if there have been any. There's a huge amount of unanswered questions that I think in any moment in time we're going to get from that. Alex, I'll bring you in. Alex Stafford there, former Tory MP. What do you want to hear here from authorities, do you think?
Well, I think we want a clear confirmation that it's not terrorist-related. I think if you can have any sort of reasons, whether they may not know this already, but if there is any suspicion, whether it's drink or drugs or technical malfunction of the car, that's also important to hear. I think we need to hear about the casualty numbers. The previous
That's the most important thing, don't you think? That's the most important.
We need to hear the level of casualty, what sort of incident we are talking about. Otherwise, it is just hearsay and it is rumour. And we shouldn't be dealing with rumour. We want to have hard facts as much as they can know. And I think we also need to know about the person arrested and also his state as well. Was there any weapons found on him? Was he intoxicated? And have a better understanding. I think there is that important question that I appreciate they won't be able to answer, is why the car, how the car managed to get on so close. And as people have said previously, this is not the first time this has happened, a bit massive parade has happened in Liverpool. They are used to this. What has happened has actually made it more dangerous today. And we've also got to realise it's not just incidents about potential attack and stuff. People could just have, a heart attack and a car could go into a crowd. When you're dealing with hundreds of thousands of people, you need to make sure they are safe.
To be fair, it didn't look like that.
No, it didn't look like that way. But it could have happened as well. But what's also important is these parades are so important that we don't actually stop them from happening.
I see. Let's go to Mark White. You're looking at the scene there. We're about to get a press conference. Mark White, our Home and Security Editor. We can bring him back in now. Mark, I think you might have a bit more information for us, or tell us what we can expect, Mark.
Yeah, I think we might be a little bit disappointed in terms of the actual detail that we'll learn this evening, because what I'm told is it's going to be a series of statements. There's no Q&A, so no chance for reporters to ask questions there, as the camera crews are just kind of lining up for those statements. Now, what we'll get is a statement, first of all, from Assistant Chief Constable Jenny Sims of Merseyside Police. That's going to be followed by representatives from North West Ambulance Service, Merseyside Fire and Rescue Service, and from Liverpool City Council. So all of those emergency services and the local authority will have something to add, something to say about what unfolded. It has to be hoped, yes, that we can maybe shed a little bit more light on whether, as we broke just a bit earlier, that investigators don't see anything at this stage that points to a terrorist motivation here. Doesn't mean, as I say, that this was not potentially a deliberate act, but that might be the kind of information hopefully they can shed some light on, because Merseyside Police have been on a bit of a learning exercise ever since Southport, and they were found wanting in terms of the kind of information that they put into the public realm early on, and that created a vacuum that was filled by all kinds of speculation, some of it right, a lot of it wrong, but then of course the subsequent disorder that we saw sweeping many cities in the days that followed that. So they are more than aware that they need to try to get information out there. The key information that we do want to get a handle on early on is whether they do believe this may have been a deliberate act, whether it was an act of terrorism or not, and of course just how many people may have been caught up in this, because sources telling me from more than a dozen, it's looking now like dozens of people have been injured, and some quite badly injured as a result of this horrific event.
OK, Mark, thank you very much. So sorry, just to clarify, you think we're going to get a series of pre-prepared statements with no opportunity for questions from the press? Is that what you're hearing?
Yeah, I mean, it's not uncommon in the early stages of an event like this for the police, ambulance service, fire brigade all to have their pre-prepared statements of what they want to be able to say at this stage. And clearly a lot, you know, further than that, taking questions from reporters is maybe going to push them to areas that they don't want to go. So the cleaner way, as they see it, is just to read out statements, and that's it. You never know. I mean, if I was there, I'd certainly be shouting some questions at them in the hope that they might respond and give some kind of clarification. But the information we're getting from Merseyside Police at the moment is it won't be a Q&A, it will be a series of pre-prepared statements. Yeah. And these, unfortunately, pre-prepared statements can often be a little bit dry in terms of the information they give over. Having said that, as I've said, with everything that happened with Southport, Merseyside Police do know that they've got to try and get as much into the public realm as possible in the early hours of an incident like this.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, look, Mark, thank you very, very much. Mark Whitehouse, security editor there. I mean, as far as I can tell, the lights keep going on and off in that room there, so I think maybe that's part of the hold-up. So it doesn't bode particularly well if they can't organise a room with some lights at work, but we'll have to wait and see. Chris, just reacting to what Mark had to say there, you know, the pre-prepared statements could still have a lot of detail. There are a lot of things we want to know. What are you hoping to find out, do you think, with statements from the police, from the ambulance service, from whoever else is there?
I want to know why there wasn't police barricading off that road. I mean, I think what Rick said earlier has probably shone more light on anything we've heard today. The fact that a car was able to drive the wrong way down a one-way street, you know, is the police going to put a statement out on that? I think the public are going to want to know. I mean, like we've discussed before, there's been some cover-ups in the past around mishandling of crises, and, you know, back in Hillsborough, it was 164 witness statements that were altered. Here, we've got video footage that you can't shy away from.
And I think it's a bit of a fob off, actually, to say they're going to give pre-prepared statements. That's not enough, actually. You have a city in shock tonight and a country in shock, and a country and a city that's got very important questions, and they need to be answered. And journalists will be able to ask those questions because they'll have more information than most people. And it's a fob off for cops to just say, you know, they're not going to take any questions from people. Why not? That is their job. Their job is to inform the public. You know, it's not like they have the guy. It's not that they're looking for him. The search is going to be compromised. They have him. They need to they need to take questions from people to help the people of Liverpool come to terms with this.
Yeah. I mean, I had a small part to play on the Hillsborough inquiry. I supplied officers from Scotland Yard to help out on the inquiry. And what we don't want is, if mistakes have been made, that it takes 25 years to establish those mistakes. So let's hope that the police are as honest. I'm sure the police will be absolutely as honest as possible with the City Council. Why has this happened? Why has this vehicle been allowed to get there? And let's hope that the next time there's a parade in Liverpool, which I've no doubt will be very soon because of a very successful team, that this doesn't happen again. But let's be clear why this car got there in the first place.
Yeah, indeed. So, again, I'll just stress, we are imminently now expecting a press conference. We think there's going to be at least 3 different emergency services giving updates there. So many unanswered questions at the moment. If you're just joining us, we are getting reports through that there are dozens of casualties and some very, very serious ones indeed. The motivation, unknown. Will we get some light on that? Alex, your take on what we might be about to hear here?
Well, yeah, one thing I want to hear, question, is some of the video footage that I've been sent, even on this programme, of the police wrestling with people on the ground, to arrest people. What is going on there? So I don't just want to hear about the exact, the actual incident when the car hit the people. I want to know what happened after it happened. Why were there seem to be some kerfuffle outside the police van with police seem to be CS spraying or zapping somebody on the ground? When it seemed like there's somebody already put in the van, who was the other person that was going on. There's a bit of confusion going around at the moment, and this creates uncertainty. So I think, as we said, for clarity, we need to hear more about the whole incident. And the last thing we need is a few prepared statements saying, this happened at this time. We want the whole incident, because otherwise the internet's already kicking off.
It doesn't just create uncertainty, it creates fury.
It's dangerous.
For devastated people, it creates fury that they hear the police not giving them the answers they need. And what you say is absolutely right. There will be every journalist in that room will have a question, a very pertinent question, and the fact that none of them are going to be answered is.
I think the video that you showed, though, that guy was lying down on the floor with a policeman, and then he got maced in the face while he's already down. You know, there's a lot of things that coming out of that footage. I don't think it's going to paint the police in much of a great light.
There's a lot of questions. I think it's legitimate also for the police at the press conference to say, we don't have the information or we can't confirm. But at least give the reporters the opportunity to ask the questions. I don't think at this stage we will criticise police too much for saying they don't have all the facts. But let's ask the questions and try and
You've seen the footage. You
don't need a press conference to give out a statement. You can put that on the wire.
What I hope, I genuinely mean, I hope this, for the sake of Merseyside police, but for the sake of wider society, that they don't come out and downplay something that later turns out not to be true. We had a lot of that going on in the West Southport thing, you know, the old choir boy incident, you know, and then it turns out.
Well, and let's look at it. Well, let's look at after the Southport riots. The Prime Minister came out and said all these people are right-wing thugs. So he was happy to say the motivation of those people. So if he's happy to say that for them, well, then surely once they know the motivation of this man, if it's put out, if that quells people's anger for whatever reason, at least if people know, they can assimilate the information and they can take it on, especially if it's not terrorism. That's what people are doing.
I get why at this stage they wouldn't say what his motivation was, because they haven't had enough time to talk to him. But they do know what happened. They do know the logistics of what happened. They do know what happened on the ground, and that's what the people have.
They will know lots of facts about the man right now because they've got professional detectives, intelligence being gathered, they'll be examining the computer, be speaking to him. They'll know lots of things. It's right they don't disclose everything, but as soon as they've got something where they can quell people's anger, tell them what the incident was about, then that will calm things down.
I think Carol's made a very incisive point just a moment ago. He said, if they've got a statement, you might as well just release it straight away online. You don't need a press conference for a statement. Otherwise, to me, that's just saying this is performative. They're just going through the motions of a press conference without actually the questions. A press conference is about answering and asking asking those difficult questions. They could put a statement out, and frankly, if they got the information, they should stick it on Twitter an hour ago already.
And if they do that, that will suggest that they're not telling us the whole truth. That's what it will suggest. If they refuse to answer pertinent questions, very relevant questions from journalists, it means they don't want to tell us.
It certainly gives you allows you to pose the question, what are you hiding, doesn't it? I think, and that would be a real shame, because we hear about lessons learned all the time, don't we? And
well, we heard about with Axel Ruder-Cabana. We heard he was from Cardiff and he was a choir boy.
Yeah.
You know that, and it just we've heard about mentally ill Norwegians and things like that. And people are very. And the trouble is that the establishment has used these terms so often that people are very cynical about what they say.
They are.
I will just say, social media today, specifically X, is a really devastating sights to see. I'm seeing it in front of me in real time now. Desperate relatives posting, I've not seen my brother, I've not seen my wife, I've not seen her, can't get through on the phone, starting to panic. A lot of friends going today, please can you keep an eye out for them. The local hospitals have told people not to call them because the switchboards are lighting up. It is clear that there are serious numbers of people unaccounted for here. Unaccounted for. I mean, that must be the most awful thing for a relative to have to
I mean, we've had, times where the police have taken a day and a half to inform the family of the dead. I mean, they should be learning the lessons from the previous stuff. But it comes back, if you're managing crowds in a football match or even a celebration, because it wasn't a match today, you usually would make sure that the number one thing you don't want going down there is people and traffic. It is like, it's oil and water, it doesn't mix. And for Rick earlier on, he's saying, well, they were a bit perplexed at all these. There was other cars driving around amongst these hundreds of thousands of people, and I think the police are putting out a statement. They're going to need to explain. Was there a failing in their sort of coordination of the
But we
the
know
crowds?
they won't.
Well,
look, I'm just going to say, I think there's potentially something going on here. I'm not trying to paint any conspiracy thing. I'm merely suggesting that I think perhaps they are changing what they're going to say, purely because I've been in situations before where you get called to these press conferences, you go, you have an idea, certainly, of the start time. If it is 3 pre-prepared statements, then they should be locked and loaded and ready to go. Yeah. We've been hanging on here for quite a while. I just get the impression that maybe things are moving behind the scenes and that they're delaying it for some reason, which might mean that we are, about to get some serious answers. Just to point, Alex, I think about wider society in general. It feels to me now, when you go out into any busy area, you've got to look out for the phone snatchers. You go into a shop and there's people filling their boots with whatever you can get. You've got bollards down the street, certainly in parts of London. I'm sure people watching and listening to this now have it in their city as well. If you're maniac terrorists, you've got the idea of, machetes on public transport, and you see Liverpool. It just feels like Britain's completely broken.
Oh, undoubtedly. In every way, it seems a more and more dangerous place by the day, a more lawless place by the day. Cars, people doing what they will, and that's the worry. It doesn't seem that sometimes the authorities, the police, are on our side, trying to actually deal with the perpetrators who are committing the most heinous acts. If the police are not there at a parade, a happy, joyous occasion, to protecting families going out, what is their purpose? And again, we're seeing on our streets, day in, day out, a more dangerous society across all way. And that also helps society breaking down. It goes back to my point about I celebrate the people who actually ran towards the car, the Liverpool fans who actually tried to step in to show actually in Liverpool there is a society. They are looking after Liverpudlians, they're looking after their people, and that is good, because unfortunately when the authorities fail, and I do think we're getting to a situation we're discussing where the authorities have failed to keep cars away from the crowds, you need to look to your own society.
And also to fail to stop people who are on prevent watch lists and have been called about and informed about and all of this stuff. There is that sense that we're not being protected, I think, isn't there?
Absolutely, and when we hear the story last week, that Shabana Mahmood, our Justice Secretary, announced that they're letting killers and rapists out of jail back onto the street. Hardened criminals out on our streets who shouldn't be. It is terrifying for everyone. And it'll be interesting to know this man's history if he has a criminal record. But the feeling we all get now is that that we're not protected, that whatever happens, we are not protected. And, you know, how often do we hear coppers say when something happens and they haven't done the job? They always blame there's not enough police numbers. It's not even that anymore. It's the attitude to policing it's completely changed now. You know, there was a time not so very long ago when coppers were in there and they were sorting things out. Now they appear to stand back from the very worst of crime, and that's not what we want. And they didn't tonight, by the way. They were in there.
Well, we'll say about lessons. The trouble is, you get all these lessons. Like there's no lessons to learn, is there? You don't mix cars with people. No. If you're going to have a big parade route, you have it all completely barriered off. You have these bollards that go up and down. And I know there are some. I visit Liverpool a lot. There are streets that are like that, but there should be no lessons learned here, because it's obvious.
I'm just going to read a witness statement here that's been reported in the Daily Telegraph as we await for this press conference, presumably now moments away. Police, fire and ambulance crews, I think, are going to give a statement. I'm going to read a witness statement here. This is from someone called Les, who was there at the time. Says, I think what happened is that he, talking about the driver, was trying to get down the street and he dipped somebody. I don't know whether maybe that was supposed to say clipped. I think it was maybe a typo there, clipped somebody. The crowd reacted and were trying to open the driver's door and the passenger door. I think he just panicked and put his foot right down with both doors still open, and he just ploughed through the crowd. First person he hit must have gone 20 feet into the air. The driver was obviously panicking. I could see that he just put his foot down as far as it would go. I've never seen anything like it. I mean, would you just put your foot down? It seems a bit odd. Mark White, our Home Security Editor, is back with us now, I think. Mark, we're waiting for this press conference to start. There's no sign of the officials at the moment. Mark, what have you got for us?
Well, it's delayed so far, but only 15 minutes. I mean, that is nothing in the you know, as far as press conferences are concerned. I've seen them delayed by much longer time periods than that, especially in a dynamic situation like this, where there may be new information coming through to the Assistant Chief Constable who is going to be chairing this press conference, and the others could be on casualty numbers, could be on details in terms of the line of the investigation. I think, you know, it's better to have it delayed for a bit if it means we get more up-to-date information. And just listening to your panel there, I get, you know, that there are definite questions that need to be answered here. But I would just advise a bit of caution before running down the line of overtly criticising the police, who will have been doing their best to manage a very fast-moving situation like this. Yes, there are definite questions to be asked about what happened in terms of the roads accessing the main site of this incident, and whether they were properly closed off and bollarded, and whether there was some issue at play there. But remember, those officers would have been the first on the scene, dealing with horrific scenes, trying to save people's lives, doing their very best to manage a very difficult situation. And I'm always reticent just to jump down the throats of the police at this stage. There may be criticism further down the line when we know exactly what played out here and whether there was any sort of weaknesses in the system and the security around this event. But for the moment, at least, we await this news conference. I call it a news conference. It's going to be a series of statements. We will get Jenny Sims, the Assistant Chief Constable of Merseyside Police, who will be reading out a statement, a pre-prepared statement. She'll be followed by representatives from the North West Area Ambulance Service, from the Merseyside Fire and Rescue Service, and also from Liverpool City Council. It would, of course, be very helpful to learn about the direction of travel of this investigation, whether they see potentially terrorism as a motive here, whether they do believe it was a deliberate act or not, because we really don't know this at this stage. And, of course, the numbers caught up in this. No one knows whether we're talking about a dozen, whether we're talking about 3 dozen. It's all speculation at this stage, even though the police tell us not to speculate. Of course, we're going to speculate on a horrific incident that's unfolded here with the eyewitness reports, the videos that we and everybody else has been able to access online. But you're looking there at Merseyside Police Headquarters as members of the press await these pre-prepared statements. It will be, I'm sure, very annoying for those members of the press who've turned up at this late hour if they're not able to get any kind of requests for questions answered. I'm sure some of those there will try to shout out some questions, and right that they should as well.
Absolutely. Look, Mark, on social media at the moment, unfortunately, it is awash with people saying, here's a picture of my relative, they were at the parade, I can't get through to them, has anyone seen them? I mean, I've seen like 30 of these posts. That's just on my timeline. I imagine that loads of people are seeing loads of others as well. We, from the bottom of all of our hearts, hope that there are no deaths here, and we hope that there aren't any people who are seriously injured. I do suggest that that's possibly unlikely, given what we've seen. There was things like a large blue tent erected at the scene, air ambulances, Mark. You mentioned to our viewers and listeners earlier on that the hospitals were saying that this is a major incident and that they're urging relatives not to call them. But the indication would be that this is a mass casualty event, would it not?
Yes, and one of the things the police may do is put out a casualty hotline, which they set up, obviously. It takes them a few hours normally to set up that because, understandably, they're having to pull extra teams in to man all the casualty hotlines. But in an event, a mass casualty event like this, that's what you get. Sadly, I've covered so many of these mass casualty events from, 7/7 to all of the terrorist attacks we saw in 2017, including the Manchester Arena bombing. And it's exactly the same situation that replays every time. I'm not sure what can ever be done about the chaotic first hours of an incident like this, but it's awful, absolutely awful for people who have not heard from their loved ones and desperately want to get news. But all I will say is that for the emergency services, they're not just sitting around waiting to start up a mass casualty bureau and hotline system. It needs all of the phone lines and systems need to be put in place. The staff need to be called in to man it before that gets up and running. So it's normally a few hours after the event when we can start to get a bit of organisation, start to get people's names from worried family members. My uncle or my cousin is missing. You get a name that can be fed into the system. These things are often painfully slow, though. I've never known an incident over the years where this hasn't been exactly the situation that has faced loved ones. It's just part and parcel of a mass casualty event. They are, by their very nature,
Mark, I'm just going to stop you there. I'm just going to stop you there, Mark, because we've now got people walking towards the desk there. We're about to get the statements from Merseyside Police Headquarters. Let's just try to get to that right now.
Good evening. I'm Assistant Chief Constable Jenny Sims from Merseyside Police. Firstly, my thoughts are with all those injured in tonight's horrific incident, their family and friends, and all of those affected by the terrible tragedy that has taken place today. I want to thank all of the emergency services, partner agencies and members of the public who came to the assistance of the injured following this evening's shocking incident, which we declared a major incident. This had been a joyous day in Liverpool, with hundreds of thousands of people lining the streets to celebrate Liverpool Football Club's victory parade. Sadly, at 6 o'clock this evening, as the parade was drawing to a close, we received reports that a car had been in a collision with a number of pedestrians on Water Street in Liverpool city centre. A number of people have been injured and were taken to hospital. In addition, a large number of people of all ages were treated at the scene but did not require hospital treatment. Specialist officers have been put in place to support the injured and their families. Our emergency service colleagues from the North West Ambulance Service and Mersey Fire and Rescue Service also attended the scene and will be able to provide further updates. The car stopped at the scene and a 53-year-old white British man from the Liverpool area was arrested. We believe him to be the driver of the vehicle. Extensive inquiries are ongoing to establish the circumstances leading up to the collision, and it is vital that people do not speculate or spread misinformation on social media. I know that people will understandably be concerned by what has happened tonight. What I can tell you is that we believe this to be an isolated incident, and we are not currently looking for anyone else in relation to it. The incident is not being treated as terrorism. We would ask that people refrain from sharing distressing footage from the incident online, and please share any information directly with our investigation team. Information, including video footage, can be passed on via the Merseyside Major Incident Police Portable. Detail can be found on the Merseyside Police website. In the lead up to this event, we have been working closely with event organisers, and a robust traffic management plan was put in place for the parade, which included a number of road closures throughout the route and the city centre. We will provide further updates as soon as we have them. I'll now hand over to my colleague Dave Kitchen from the North West Ambulance Service.
Thank you. Good evening, I'm Dave Kitchen, Head of Service for the Cheshire Merseyside area of NWAS. All of us at North West Ambulance Service are horrified and saddened that a day of celebration for the people of Liverpool could end in such terrible circumstances. Our thoughts are with everyone who witnessed the incident and those who have been injured. As large crowds were expected in the city centre today to celebrate Liverpool Football Club's victory, we thankfully had a substantial presence already in place close to the route, as we would do for any event of this type. Our ambulances, hazardous area response team, merit doctors, North West Air Ambulance colleagues and senior clinicians were very quickly on scene to offer aid and treatment. St John Ambulance also had clinical teams present to support us throughout the day and were quick to respond, and our thanks go to them for their assistance. Our emergency ambulances took patients to our NHS colleagues at the Royal Liverpool Hospital, Alder Hey, Arrow Park and Aintree hospitals. Sadly, 4 of the injured were children who were enjoying the day with their friends and their families. We can confirm that our teams treated 20 patients at the scene for minor injuries, and these did not need hospital treatment. 27 patients in total were taken to hospital by ambulance, and we believe 2 of those, including one of the children, have sustained serious injuries. Our cyclist paramedic, who was on scene, was also unfortunately struck by the vehicle, but I'm pleased to report that no injuries were sustained. We also know that some patients have self-presented at local hospitals following the incident. We're working closely with our partners at Merseyside Police and share their appeal for calm. This is indeed an appalling incident, and we understand that people will be deeply upset. The people of Liverpool have shown many times before that you are a strong community and you support one another. All of us at North West Ambulance Service share with you the frustration that this wonderful day has ended like this, and we hope that those who have been injured make a speedy recovery. We'd also like to extend our thanks to Merseyside Fire and Rescue Service and Merseyside Police, both of whom assisted in attending to the injured in a very rapid sequence, as did many of the supporters in the city centre.
as well as our NHS colleagues who will continue the treatment. Everybody has played their part today. At this point, I'd just like to pass over to Nick Searle, the Chief Fire Officer. Thank you.
Good evening. Firstly, our thoughts are with everyone who has been affected by the incident this evening. Merseyside Fire and Rescue Service were informed at 18:07 hours. We immediately mobilised 3 fire engines to Water Street and were in attendance in 4 minutes. On arrival, the crews were met with numerous injured people and 4 persons trapped under a vehicle. Our crews rapidly lifted the vehicle, removed 3 adults and 1 child from beneath and passed them to our ambulance service colleagues. We then worked with emergency service partners to ensure casualties received medical treatment and transport to hospital as quickly as possible. My fire crews will maintain a visible and reassuring presence in the coming days and weeks. I'll now hand you over to Liam Robinson from Liverpool City Council.
Thank you. I'd like to start by saying, on behalf of everyone here in Liverpool, how much our thoughts and prayers are with those affected by this appalling incident in the city centre today. It's cast a very dark shadow over what had been a joyous day for the city and the finale to a fabulous bank holiday weekend. I'd particularly like to pay tribute to the emergency services who responded to help those who were hurt and to our NHS staff treating them in hospital. We're working very closely with Merseyside Police to support their investigation and with other relevant organisations to make sure those affected get the appropriate support. I would appeal for people, please do not share the horrifying footage of the incident on social media. Please, if you have any information, forward it to Merseyside Police to help them with their investigation. We won't be commenting any further, but we will provide relevant updates as and when we know more and it's appropriate to do so. Once again, our hearts go out to all of those affected. Liverpool is a city that has a proud history of coming together and supporting each other during challenging times. I've no doubt that will again be the case over the coming days and weeks. Thank you.
OK, that concludes the press conference there. Let me summarise for you. I'm going to start by saying it is absolutely remarkable and, in what is a tragic and terrible incident, a great result that nobody has died. We've all seen, and I suspect that many people watching and listening to this now will have seen the footage that we're talking about. I find it incredible that no one's died, and that is the major news out of that press conference. However, there are a lot of people injured, and our thoughts go out to them. Roughly 27 people currently in hospital. 4 children were injured, one of them seriously injured, trapped under a car. Another person is described as being very seriously injured as well. Let's hope that their conditions improve, not deteriorate. Around 20 people were treated on the scene that didn't require hospital treatment. One of those was a cyclist paramedic who was there, who was hurt. 4 people in total were trapped under a car, and emergency services managed to get them out. I'll stress it again: the fact that nobody has died in that incident beggars belief. But gosh, well, there we go. The statement earlier than that from the female police officer there was that it's an isolated incident, that the 53-year-old arrested, they believe, was the driver, which clears that up. We'll say from the footage that we've seen, you wouldn't have thought he was 53, but we'll go with what they've said there. They said it's not terrorist-related, and they were keen to stress that there were road closures in place, which is not what several eyewitnesses have told us, I must say, but that's that. Carol, your takeaway from that?
There was more information than I thought there'd be. However, I still think they're dodging the questions that everyone wants the answers to, particularly the one about the road closures. She did say there had been road closures, but she said more details of that would be released later. Why? Why not now? The other thing that I thought was a bit of a cheek. She said that people who've got film on social media must not spread it. That that rabbit is out of the hat now.
done.
You can't put that back in the box.
Also in this day and age, that's a completely pointless
it's a pointless
and
thing to
ridiculous
say.
request.
And it's also a kind of controlling, manipulative thing to say. Don't be bothering about what people are putting on social media. If you tell us enough, people won't have to resort to social media to get their information, which is the thing. The relief was, she said she believes it's not terror-related, and she said that there were about the kids. That's what's scary. For me, the scary thing is the 4 people who were trapped under the vehicle. That they seem to be the ones that are most seriously injured. But, you know, from what you just said is absolutely right. It is amazing no one died here. And wouldn't it be terrible if it was as that witness said before, that this guy lost control, panicked, lost control and went into the crowds because of that. That would be the biggest tragedy of all, that all of these people are hurt. You know, lives change forever because of what's happened today, because of that.
Yeah,
we don't know that.
With your police hat on, what do you make of that press conference that we heard there?
Well, I think the police have put out a lot more information than they would have done in the past.
Yeah.
The fact that they've given there's a white man of this age, that calms speculation down it's some kind of terrorist attack. The fact that they're telling people this is an isolated, it's a one-off thing, again, that reduces the fear, because what people are doing, they'll be panic. If they didn't say things like that, is there going to be another one of these attacks? So I think the police are learning lessons. It has only been several hours since this incident, so let's give the police have to have some time now to fully investigate this. Let's hope they continue with this disclosure, so they're telling people the facts as they come out, so that people know, and it just calms down speculation.
Well, I will say that I do hope that this sets a precedent, that it shows that within an hour or so of a major incident, you can release the age, the ethnicity, the nationality of the attacker. That's been proven now, demonstrably so. So there we go. Before I go to my other panellists here, let me bring you the front pages, because this is important just to see how all of the national press have handled today's incident. You've got to remember they're going to be behind the times now. We're bang up to date here on GBNews because we've just had the press conference. But let's see how the national press gave that a go. The Guardian. Horror as car ploughs into crowd at Liverpool FC victory parade. The picture that they've got on the front there is a Liverpool fan with the scarf on being carried away by 2 fire officers there in front of a St John's ambulance. We go now to the Daily Mail. Carnage at the parade. Driver 53 arrested after car ploughs through crowds of fans celebrating Liverpool's Premier League triumph. Now, what they've done on the front page there is they've decided to go for a picture of the moment of impact. Now, it's quite an interesting editorial decision to do that, because at the time that they ran that picture, they will have had no way of knowing whether or not the person on the front there was alive. We now know that nobody has died. They will not have known that at the time. And we also know that many relatives are unable to get in touch with their relatives. So it's quite a bold editorial decision.
It is, but if you look at it, I don't know whether the smudges on this picture are accidental, or whether the paper has actually blocked the obvious faces of the people out to stop people being identified. So I think, you know...
I'm not necessarily criticising it, by the way. You know, it's a gripping picture.
Patrick, if it's out there on social media, it's out there. I mean, you can't hide this stuff anymore.
I think it would have been interesting to have been a fly on the wall in that discussion there, because you know that in that newsroom they're having a conversation about whether we run that picture.
And the Daily Mail would be very careful of how their readers would take that, how they'd interpret that, how they would look at it, and they'll have made the decision on the basis of that, deciding that it was the right thing to do.
Yeah. OK, let's whiz ourselves on to the next newspaper. We go to the Eye. Look, they're carrying the same picture as the Guardian. Horror at the victory parade. Number of injuries unknown. They say, well, we do now have that information for you. 27 people in hospital, 20 treated at the scene, 4 injured children, 1 of them seriously. So there we go. Whiz ourselves on next to the Sun. They've got a full page picture of the aftermath, which is utter carnage, isn't it? Horror as car hits cop fans. One thing I will say about that is the wording there, and I know a lot of people online, in light of the repeated attacks that we've seen, don't like this phrase, car hits people, car drives into people. People say it's a person, isn't it? But, you know, man drives car into vehicle. That seems to be one of the things.
But the hellish fact is it's happened.
There is a fact that, by the way, I'm sure a lot of people at home will be pointing this out. And Chris, I'll bring you in on this. You know, the Sun of all newspapers need to make sure they get this one right, don't they?
Yeah, I mean, well, it's hit children at the end of the day. When you've got a kid seriously injured, like, and you, I don't know, it sort of takes the humanity out of it, and the fact that there's actually, you know, someone who's gone and run these people over deliberately or not, or whatever mental health state or not.
I think you're alluding to the fact that the
we can't buy the Sun, can you?
The Sun's
can't buy
name is
Liverpool.
modern Liverpool.
No,
you can't buy it.
No one in Liverpool is seeing this front page tomorrow, are they?
No one will buy the Sun and Liverpool, and it's been the case since Phil.
Simply not for sale. I was at Lime Street Station. It's simply not in the magazine.
No, they have not forgotten that and never will.
No. Yeah, they've gone for at least 30 hurt, driver 53 held at scene. With ourselves over to the Times now. Horror at Liverpool Parade, car drive-through, packed crowd. I'm just trying to get a bit of a handle on this picture as well that they've gone for there. So they've chosen not to show the actual moment of impact, but it's the aftermath of the first. If you're just joining us, I'll talk you through what actually happened as far as we're aware. The car initially backed into people, then went through some people, then stopped for a bit, then went through some more people. So this is the kind of in between bits that we've got there. And they've gone for that. I think we can go to the Telegraph now, is it? The Daily Telegraph. Let's just round us off for the front pages with this. Yeah, so Liverpool glory turns to horror. The photograph that they've gone for is someone being stretchered away. They've also gone for a smaller picture there of people surrounding that car, both police and Liverpool fans as well. Alex, what do you make of the treatment that the Nationals have given to this so far, then?
Well, I think they're playing quite a straight bat. I think what's interesting, just looking at the front pages, and all I've got is the front pages, actually they're offering more information than I've got from the police report. Now, if I just briefly look at the Daily Telegraph, it tells me there's a people carrier and there was a child's car seat in the back of the car, albeit empty. Now, we know that there are 4 children injured, 1 seriously injured, so that makes the horror even more real, because to me that says that car, the driver of the car has a child. There's a child's car seat at the back of it. And the Times reports that witnesses say that the driver of the car came out of a Hooters bar and was was clearly drunk. Now, that's what the Times says on the front page.
That's interesting.
Now, we didn't hear any of this from the police.
Can you read that to me? Sorry, because we're having a look at all these front pages in one go.
This is the Times, the front page of today's Times, tomorrow's Times. One witness claimed the driver had left a nearby Hooters bar and appeared drunk.
Wow.
Crowds were shouting at him as he got into his car. They said he then started driving erratically and he drove into pedestrians. No. Now, we heard from the police officer in the press conference a lot of things they ruled out. They ruled out a lot of things.
Wow.
I presume in the sense that they would have breathalyzed, drug. Why have they not ruled in or out that? Because that's now on the front page of the Times saying he was.
That's massive.
Why are the police not telling us the information?
Well done for spotting that. We obviously get all these front pages thrown at us in one go. So I was kind of focusing really on the headlines there. But that is a really important detail in the Times. That is massive.
And that will be the question tomorrow. Why didn't, if the cops know that, if they've breathalyzed this guy, why haven't they said that? Because it is there. They don't have to investigate that. If that is the case, they need to say that.
And it's front page of a national newspaper. It's not hiding away. If the Times have got hold of this, the police have it.
Isn't this indicative of the relationship that the press have with the police now? It is not a great relationship anymore. It used to be. They used to help each other. This is not helping anyone when they.
Yeah.
And I think them walking out of that conference like they did, turning their backs on every walk away, I think that's an insult to the people of Liverpool.
But what I do find more concerning as well from the police officers was twice she mentioned we restrained, the public restrained from sharing information online, and it was vital not to spread misinformation. So twice they told us we shouldn't be talking about these online.
Too busy telling us what not to do. You know, they haven't even confirmed whether the next of kin have been involved. You said it, Patrick. You know, there's people still, wondering if they can get in touch with people. And has this person been involved with the mental health services before or anything like that? That's not been confirmed. I think the fact that they're out here You know, we're getting more information from the front of the newspaper than a statement.
It is always the case.
And with drink driving, the sergeant administers the test.
Yeah.
The test is whatever it is. There's no prejudice in the trial. This person was X amount of milligrams. There's no question of it, is it? That's detail that could have been given. The driver has been breathalyzed. He was not drunk, or he was whatever. The facts would be there. So, but I do think that we've got to cut the police some slack in a way, in the sense that from the horrors of what we had with the Nicola Bulley investigation and then Southport, at least lessons are being learned, but they've got to learn more lessons. And I agree with Carol about the relationship with the press and the police. I had a great relationship. I relied on the press to put images to know this person, and I had a fantastic relationship across television and newspapers. And this was lost. There's an absolute fear in the police of dealing with the papers. It's absolutely crazy.
You will remember this, you know, in murder investigations, many of the ones that I've covered, the police depend on the press to keep the story going, so that people will remember something, they might remember a face they saw, or whatever. The police used to absolutely depend on the press, and we worked together on stuff like that. These days it's not. It's almost like the police mistrust the media instinctively, tell them nothing and they'll go away. Well, they're not going away. And
there's another aspect to this as well, which is that the Telegraph are reporting, and to be honest with you, you can see this in a couple of the videos that are doing the rounds online, but you're just not sure because the sound's not great. But this, again, Eyewitness is saying that as the crowds protested, he reversed before moving forward, then beeping his horn. Now, if you're a terrorist or something, you know, you don't beep your horn as you drive into a Christmas market, do you? It just seems very odd, and it might again add to this idea that's in the Times that this individual has had a few drinks. Again, I'm just saying what's reported here. I'm not trying to pass my own comment on this. You know, he's lost the plot basically, and he's beeping away, and for whatever reason has ploughed on. It just seems like there's a lot more to come out about that.
Well, it makes a bit more sense why those lads are trying to drag him out of the car. If he's been coming out half cut or full cut, and he's been stopped once already, has been pointing one of these other front pages. You know, it's clear that there was something off with that, and the fact that the police can't even go on national television or do a press release and say whether he's intoxicated or not. I mean, there can't be treatments reform.
Well, they can say don't put things online. They can say several times in the press conference, don't put it online.
Don't retweet.
What I think was really actually sad was before I actually came to the studio, I went on X and Facebook, and I saw so many tweets, X or whatever you call them now, saying, be careful, these are the public, saying, be careful what you tweet, because the police might look at that and they'll care more about that than they will about the incident. And here we are some hours later, they're saying, be careful what you put online. And is this the sort of police we want? They care, so obsessed with that?
Well, you raised a really important point there about, you know, people are now scared that the cops are going to come to their door because of what they tweet, which is not what should be happening in this country. It's just, and that's the way it is.
They're all running now, actually. The more I read into this, the Mail have got it, the Eye have got it, about the beeping. He was beeping his horn. The driver was beeping his horn.
It's almost like a road rage incident. Is it a road rage? Somebody was speculating, has the person been drink driving? Is it a road rage incident? But as I said, these are things which are easily shown, and I would hope by tomorrow morning that if this is the case, to charge somebody with drink driving is your first step. This investigation then can continue.
What would he be charged with if that was found to be the case? What charges could be levelled at him apart from drunk
dangerous driving? It depends if anybody... Again, they'll be looking at... They'll be monitoring the hospital situation because of very serious charges causing death by dangerous driving. Dangerous driving is one of the offences.
But if you cause injury, as we've seen here, what kind of sentence would that carry?
Well, I mean, the tragedy is when people are killed with motor cars, the sentences are really quite short compared to... You know, the vehicle... It's a terrible thing, isn't it? But... The facts are, though, it is easy to prove. The drink driving is easy to prove. The dangerous driving is very easy to prove. We've got all these videos, from CCTV or from mobile phones.
Why would they not say that tonight? Because that would have put the questions to bed. Would it not?
Well, let's say, for example, the man has refused to give a breath test. Let's say, for example, he's injured in some way and can't give a breath test. They could have said. They could have. Yes, they could. But again, you've got to get the doctor to take that. But what they could have said is what's happened. But I just think the police are on some big learning curve here. They've got to get back to that relationship that you have indicated with the media, where they feel that they can say.
But surely they shouldn't have to be educated.
I'm afraid they have to be
basic
educated.
as this.
I'm afraid they have. It's a whole culture that's gone on for 20 years.
But if this is true that the person has, obviously, if it's all reported, having been drinking, this is even more, I think, a damning failure of the police. So let me just write: a person went to a pub during this, where there are lots of police around this parade. He was then almost allowed to get into a car. And I presume there are lots of police, and then drive into a crowd of people before the police officer. How does that happen? Surely these days, when the roads aren't blocked, the police say, OK, let's monitor the pubs. Who's then getting into a vehicle? And if the people saw him getting into, from the pub, the Hooters, into the car, they must have been relatively near the scene, the police around. Didn't the police say, whoa, someone's getting out of a pub?
I've got to defend the police. The police's focus at this event. If you're a young officer at this event, your PC, your sergeant, you're inward facing, you're looking at the crowds, you're not looking who's coming out of bars and stuff like that. You're not looking. The question is, though, why was a car ever... That's the big thing for me. Why was the car ever allowed to be anywhere near this place at all?
Indeed. Just absolutely remarkable incident. Let's just bring back up, if we can, the Daily Mail, because I want to have a talk about their front page. So, the Daily Mail, I've gone for carnage at the parade, but it's the picture story that has got me interested, because there are discussions that take place in our newsroom. I obviously have not been watching some of our competitors' coverage because I've been here, but I imagine they've been having similar conversations about what we're going to show and what we're not going to show. And I think if they're anything like us, then they've been very cautious, and rightly so. The Daily Mail... And by the way, I'm not having a go at this. I'm just saying it's an interesting editorial decision. Have gone for the picture of the car ploughing into people with a bloke kind of in the air there. Bearing in mind, we now know that nobody has died, so that's a result in itself, a miraculous result in itself. But they will not have known that at the time that they went to print, and we still don't know whether or not relatives have managed to make contact with various people. I don't know. What do you make of this? You all right with it?
Patrick, papers are all about telling a story, and a picture tells a story.
Yeah.
You know, you mentioned the Times picture, which is this one here, which says nothing at all about anything.
Yeah.
It's a van it's a van in the middle of a street, not doing anything. This tells you the story.
Yep.
Mail, and the Mail have a very brave history of stuff like this. If you remember, they were the first paper years ago to put the photographs of some of the Pakistani rape gangs on the front pages of the paper. They were the first people to do that, and I think it was a brave decision. I think it was probably a decision that took a very long time to come to. There would have been lawyers involved. There would have been editorial staff involved, and I think it's the right decision because it shows the horror of actually what happened, and that's
it will come as no surprise to anyone to know that I tend to lean towards the idea of get the stuff out there, right? So yeah, I'm not against it. I can see how there might be a bit of pushback from this from certain quarters in the Mail potentially. What do you think about that?
Well, again, I'm one for, in the police, I was one for getting information out there, getting... we used to have a press department in the Met called DPA. We used to say, but don't publish anything. Everything, all the time they tried to stop me. And my whole job, I remember dealing with all sorts of incidents where I said, I want to publish these photographs, I want to get them identified, and the police, they would stop me doing that. So... I just think it's a learner. Well done, the Mail, for being brave.
Do you think it's insensitive potentially because we don't know the condition of the person who's being flung over the bonnet there?
There's clearly a trade-off. I think what this shows is how crowded that place was. You know, the type of car that's being driven, and what the reality of this incident was. I think in the Times, actually bringing it back, I think there's a lot of detail in there. There was another account by a man who was at the parade with his family. His name is Matt Cole. He told BBC that just moments before, we watched the fireworks going off in celebrations, the Liverpool bus passing us on the Strand. There were screams ahead of us, and suddenly this dark blue car just come through the crowd. It wasn't stopping. I managed to grab my daughter, who was with me, and jump out of the way. You know, I've got a 15-month, 16-month-old daughter. If you're at a place like that, you can really kind of imagine the fear and the panic as the car's ploughing through people. And if you manage to jump out of the way, you know, it could be anyone. It's people's sisters, daughters, grandparents. You know, these are the ones that have been affected by it. And if it is just some boozed-up moron, you know, then really, if it is these sort of lighter charges for a traffic offence, if that's how it's taught, then it needs to be reviewed if that's the outcome.
To be fair, I don't think that will happen here. I think this guy will get the book thrown at him.
Yeah.
Quite.
Yeah. I mean, it's quite astonishing to think what could have been. Again, I'll say that we've got 47 casualties, 20 of them in hospital, 20 treated at the scene, 27 in hospital. 2 people seriously injured, one of whom is a child. There is footage online. I mean, there was people in next to that car with pushchairs. So the mind boggles as to exactly how bad this could have been. Just to go back, Alex, just to round us off what we talked about the mail initially there. Do you think that they've got quite lucky here, the fact that nobody's died and that they've run that front page?
I think so. I'm a father of 3 young daughters, one's only 4 weeks old. I mean, if one of my children was hit by the car, let alone the ones who are severely ill, I would be absolutely devastated that this picture is on the front page. Yeah. But I also think it's important that people show the horror of whether it's a terrorist account or drink driving. Actually, this is dangerous. If nothing else, once again, we don't know yet, if there's almost a drink driving incident, I want this shown to every person who drinks drive. I want to show them this is what you could do if you get behind a wheel and you drink. And that is important to ram home how dangerous anyone could be behind a wheel. And it's very important. You might have... And that's essential education to stop further accidents happening, if that's what happened.
Can I just say, we just looked... You know, I'm not a traffic officer. I was a detective chief inspector. But we've just looked, and the maximum punishment for dangerous driving is 2 years in prison.
Is that all they would get?
And drink driving is something like 6 months, I think.
What other charge could they put on if it wasn't just that one?
There's an ancient offence of furious driving under the Offence Against the Persons Act 1861, whether they could use something like that. If somebody did die, then they could possibly charge them with manslaughter.
If this guy just gets 2 years, it means he'll be out in a year. Probably under this government, he'll be out in 6 months. That cannot be allowed to happen.
Unless there's multiple charges and they run them consecutively, which they often don't.
Yeah, I mean, so again, just to stress that as it currently stands, we've not been told he's been charged with anything. So arrested. Yeah. We don't actually know on suspicion. We don't actually know on suspicion of what, do we? When you think about it, bear in mind that you made a series of great points here. We've just had a press conference involving 3 separate emergency services, and that police officer there, like a rabbit in the headlights, utterly terrified, no Q&A off the back of it, you know, real terrifying stuff. And we're learning in the Times that an eyewitness has said that there's a bloke who's been to Hooters, seemed like he was off his face, got behind a car, people have then tried to get him out of the car, and here we are. Now,
if a reporter, Patrick, has managed to get that information on the scene, well, a copper should too. They should have all of that written down and done long before it hits the press. They would know that. They must have known.
I'm still struggling to understand the purpose of the press conference. We had, 4 different people, talking heads from the council to the fire brigade, all telling us what their bodies were doing. It's important. Why couldn't one person stand up an hour ago saying, this is what the situation is, and maybe do another one in an hour's time to update? Because
they'd know, wouldn't they? I mean, Mark, you know more about this, but I would imagine they'd know. I mean, there'd be the smell of the booze. There'd also be the breathalyzer, would there, the blood test? I mean, they would presumably know by now.
It's a standard procedure. If somebody's involved in a traffic accident, however minor, there should be a breathalyzer.
How long does a blood test or a breath test take to process?
No, the breath test will be done. You literally blow. Now at the scene, you can blow into it there, but they'll obviously take the man back to the police station. It's literally a procedure where you go through a book. It'll take 15 minutes, and the machine gives the blood test has got to be sent away, but a breath test is literally the result comes up on the computer.
What would be their reasons, Mike, for not saying if this bloke had been tested and was wrong? What would be their reasons for not putting that out?
Well, we've seen time and time again with the police, there's a real fear of putting out information, this claim that they'll somehow prejudice the inquiry. And we saw this with Sopot. The Prime Minister was saying two things. One, he was saying that the motivations of these rioters, the right-wing thugs, the motivation, I can't say anything about the motivation of the man committing the murders because it might prejudice the trial, so which is a load of old nonsense. You're not prejudicing the trial, saying if he's blown in the breath machine this amount of you know, millilitres.
I mean, if this emerges to be a drink driving incident, this would genuinely, I think, be one of the worst cases of drink driving ever. It's an open top bus parade for Liverpool's 20th Premier League title victory, with some people estimating as many as 1 million people out there celebrating. You've managed to grind that to a halt, injure 47 people, lead the national news on a rolling basis for at least the last 4 hours. It's hard to imagine a more catastrophic drink driving case. I mean, the only saving grace is that no one's died. But
and the horror of people being trapped under a vehicle. I mean, credit to the fire brigade for their efforts and rescuing them and getting them. Oh, absolutely terrifying that must be, especially for a child. Dreadful.
Yeah, I believe that in light of the fact that as we understand it at the moment, thankfully nobody has died. There are some people very seriously injured, though. By the way, we wish them all the best. And I think it's important to say as well that the trauma of this incident, especially for the children involved, is going to last for an incredibly long time. But I think in light of the fact that nobody has passed away as it currently stands, we do have some footage of the initial incident that we can play for you. So this here... OK, so what we'll do, we've blurred out, obviously, some bits there, but this is the aftermath, I think, isn't it, of where the car... Oh, this is people, yes. The car has driven through that crowd of people, and we've got people there on the floor. It gives you an impression, I think, of exactly how busy that street was there and how jam-packed that was. So yeah, just remarkable that no one else has been killed, really. Bystander video show fans trying to stop the car whilst others beg police and medics for help. And actually, I will say, I do think it is quite incredible that the police managed to stop that guy being lynched, didn't they?
Oh, yeah. I must say the police did a good job protecting the person, and that is the police's job. They need to, without fear or favour, protect everyone, and I want a full investigation and the whole book thrown at the person who did this. But it's not for the public to lynch the people. I can understand completely why people were angry, and we saw there's some scenes on the internet about some sort of ruckus, what are going on outside the police van. But once again, that wasn't mentioned at the police conference. I think we've seen the video of someone being pepper sprayed on the floor. None of that has been talked. Have any of those people been arrested as well? I just wanted a bit more context about what happened and the aftermath, and actually what happened.
And we hope the police as well use some common sense approach, because if people have been arrested because they're very angry, they've got aggressive, let's hope the police deal with these people by cautioning them or giving them a warning and look at the context of the incident.
And also, people's blood's running high.
Absolutely.
They don't know what's going on. As I said, I do think the people who initially went towards the car to try and stop the driver, to stop further damage being happened, if they hadn't stopped the car and attacked the car, I'd say, who knows, the car may have continued driving.
Yeah.
And that would have maybe, thank God, at the moment, no one's died. But it could have been so much.
And the officers and public seemed to hem it in, didn't they? So, and all credit to the members of the public and the officers who stood in front of a moving... that vehicle could have really hurt them and put themselves in danger's way to stop anything.
There were a lot of brave people there today. A lot of brave people.
Yeah, a lot. It's just so devastating that you have what is a joyous day. I mean, like I say this as a Manchester United fan, don't get me wrong, but it's a joyous day. I can only dream of my team winning the league at this rate. I mean, good grief, I'm more likely to win the championship, I think, at this point. But yeah, it is an incredible day. You know, people out there, you know, celebrating, you know, just having a good time, good thing with the city. And just, you know, it just feels like at the moment everything gets marred by something. No matter what you do, really. It's just unbelievable to see that. I've got a statement here from Liverpool FC, who said, "We are in direct contact with Merseyside Police regarding the incident on Water Street, which happened towards the end of the trophy parade earlier this evening. Our thoughts and prayers are with those who have been affected by this serious incident. We'll continue to offer our full support to the emergency services and local authorities who are dealing with this incident. So there we go. Carol, you were alluding to earlier on that press conference that we had from especially the police officer there saying, oh, we did have road closures in place, You think they might be trying to cover themselves a bit there?
Yeah, well, because she said, well, more of that later. Well, why not more of that now? Because that's the obvious question that he'd ask. When you see that van in the street, the obvious question is, why is that road not closed off? And also in light of the fact that the witnesses that have been interviewed said, why wasn't the street closed off? So that was a question, and that's why, had they opened that press conference up to questions, that would have been one of the first questions that Mark would have asked, I am pretty sure. Apart from the casualties, why was that road open? And they didn't want that.
And we had someone from the council there as well, so the perfect person to working with the police to close roads.
Yes.
They know what roads are closed, and
Yes.
I mean, and there will be a map. You know, I was involved in things like the Notting Hill Carnival, and there's an absolute map, and you can see exactly which road is closed off and who's there, which police officers are responsible. And these things are subject to months of planning with all these partners. So get the map out and show us.
That's the moment, by the way, if you're watching us on television, of the police and the Liverpool fans swarming that car. At that point, pretty much all the windows had been smashed. The back window was out, the side windows was out. I mean, there's actually a clip, I think, that we might have shown earlier on, which appears to the door's been ripped off. They've got the guy. Then once he gets out of the car, a police officer gets in, immobilises the vehicle. And again, just at this moment in time, you are just thinking, this is terror. They might have a bomb in there. They might have everything. I mean, can you imagine the death toll that would have been there if that had gone off, if that had been that nightmare scenario? To think that all of those people's first instinct was to run towards it, you never know how you're going to react in those situations. You never know.
Yeah. Well, I found in the police and the army, you only find out people's character when drama occurs, when the knife or the gun comes out. And there's a lot of people there who found out their true character. A lot of officers, people, members of the public found out that they were brave individuals.
It is always the way. The public never fails to amaze all of us when they do stuff like that. It's not that unusual. The public does it all.
I will just say, I think, and we've all been, I think, quite clear on the idea that I suspect that there's going to have to be some ramifications for the general level of policing at this fact, the fact that there were cars up and down. But what you are seeing on your screens there right now is probably about 20 or so police officers who were willing to die to protect the public there. Because if that car had had a bomb in it, they'd have all gone.
And I think one of the witnesses said he saw 25 police running. The actuals of the police on the ground clearly did an amazing job. They ran forward, they tried to stop everything. We saw pictures of the public and the police trying to smash the windows with bare hands. They weren't coming in with things to smash the windows. They were using their own bodies to try and stop the vehicle. And all these people, police and public...
It's a bit too little too late, though, in my mind. Like, you've got this guy's come out of Hooters bar. He's managed to stumble into his motor. He's passed a load of old Bill getting onto this road, and it's taking the public to try and get him out. Up until which he's already had his door pulled open once or twice. He's gone down a bit further, hit someone, stalled, and then he's been able to drive off again. Like, how can... If you are policing that, how do you allow that to get to that point?
We have to find out, because a senior officer would have been in charge of that, would have been
watching it
on duty. that parade would have had the same gold, silver, bronze. Not as high up, probably. There would probably be some chief superintendent as gold, some chief inspector probably as the silver commander. Somebody's got to answer some difficult questions there.
Because this was Liverpool, in the north, not the metropolis, you wouldn't expect terror or something terrible to happen necessarily in Liverpool. Do you think maybe that's why... I don't want to say that security was lax, but do you think that's why it maybe took longer? Because it wasn't expected.
I don't think so, because we've seen Southport, we've seen the Manchester Arena. I just think there's some fundamental failings here that they haven't blocked off. And it's almost tragic, isn't it? That it's almost like if it's terrorism, you can sort of say, oh, yeah, I understand the motivation. But if it is somebody who's just drunk driving, you think, my God, this is just dreadful.
You know what I think, though? At the moment, moment, our day-to-day lives are being massively impacted because we're having to compensate for idiots and wrong-uns. So when you go into the shops now, I don't know if it's the same for you, certainly in my local shops, everything's in a plastic case with a lock on it.
Yeah.
You not that I do this anymore these days, of course, but yeah, I see it. There's a buzzer you press now if you want booze. So you go into the supermarket to go for a 4-pack of Stella or whatever, and you see people, adults, like 60-year-old men and women, pressing a buzzer for booze, and someone has to walk over and unlock it. Butter. Coffee's got a security tag
Come on, Croyd, you have to answer.
You know, you want to go to a Christmas market, you've got to go through airport security. All of this, you think incidents like this just make you think, what are we going to end up having now as a result of this? Is it going to be like, right, you're only allowed to have, you're going to have to get a ticket to an open-top bus parade?
And that's the sad thing. We don't want, regardless of what happens, to stop these sort of moments of celebration for football teams, for society. We need those. But I think what's quite frustrating is we keep hearing in the news new legislation putting in. We have like flower shows closing because they have to provide full anti-terrorism risk assessments. 100-year-olds on a pottery competition closing because they can't spend thousands of pounds on this. Yet here we have a massive parade in one of the UK's biggest and most prosperous cities for an event they've held many times before, can fail to stop what might be just a drunk driver. So we're all suffering. So you can't go to the local flower show anymore because they can't afford the anti-terrorism issues. But you might get hit by a car in a big city going to a parade which happens again and again and again. That's so sad.
You can't buy a knife. You can't buy a knife online or in the shop or whatever else.
This is kind of an authoritarian culture taking over this country, but it's not actually working.
Yes, and incompetence, though. It's the worst of all worlds.
Incompetent.
Well, that's it. I think shortly, because it's important, we've done your national newspaper front pages, but it's important, I think, to have a look at how the Liverpool Echo, which is a really good, solid newspaper, has been doing it. So shortly we're going to show you their front page on that, because you know, they are right at the centre of this story. You know, it's their city, it's their people, it's their fans, it's all of that. So we don't normally do the regional newspapers, but we will do shortly on this. I think so. It's currently now 20 to midnight. We've had a police press conference at about, I think it was about 11:15. I mean, Chris, I would really hope that, you know, by the time that our breakfast show rolls around tomorrow, that we've got another update from the police on, you know, is this guy being charged? What's going on? You know, people aren't going to want to hold off on this for another 8 hours, are they?
Well, I mean, it's been, 45 minutes since the press release, and the Liverpool Echo saying it's at least 47 injured. You know, that's another 20 people. I mean, you know, that might be to the point earlier whether it's people who were treated at the scene, but, you know, they should be getting some clarity on bare bones how this car was in a road with 1,000 people. And you can do all the planning, you can have all the levels of standards, and you can have all the press conferences you want. That's what people want to know.
It'll be interesting, though, because I can guarantee that this paper will have more facts tomorrow than anyone else. And this will be the paper to watch tomorrow. They will have contacts in the local police and in the fire brigade. They will get more than any of the national...
But bearing in mind as well that if somebody dies, the police can keep people in for a long time in custody. If no one has died and we're dealing with drink driving and dangerous driving, the police have got 24 hours, maybe 36 hours to make a charge, you know, or they've got to release the man. So I think they'll act quickly here, and we should have a lot more clarity tomorrow morning.
4 people were actually trapped under this vehicle, and there's it's not, I believe, on their front page picture, but on the Liverpool Echo's website, they have got a picture of this ginormous inflatable blue tent, which, when it was described initially, just verbally, I think a lot of people thought it's like those little tents that you see when there's been a murder scene or something like that, but it's not like that at all. This is this huge, massive, great big blue tent that's just... So that, I think what they were doing there was it's like they've put that over the car, and they've got the equipment that is available to people to now. Well, there's no disputing the fact this shouldn't have happened in the first place, don't get me wrong, but I think from what we've seen, once it did happen, the response from the emergency services seemed like it was absolutely brilliant. They've covered the scene. There's a fire engine there straight away. There's a blue tape. They're getting people out there, and I think that the heroes of this are going to prove to be in the coming days and weeks the paramedics on the scene. One of them, a cyclist paramedic who had been clipped by the car itself, so injured, treating people. You know, the miracle that no one has died can only be down to the quality of some of these medical.
Well, if you look at the Manchester Arena, there was a lot of criticism because the emergency services held back.
Yeah.
What we have here is they're running towards the danger and helping everybody.
You know, the thing about this is, you know, cops. I gave the cops a lot of flack on a day-to-day basis for a lot of things, but the bottom line is they are paid not very much money to run into the face of danger every day. Their families never know whether they're coming home at night time, and the same goes for the ambulance service as well, because they face a lot of flack too. And I think, you know, it will not be the fault of any of these guys on the ground. The fault, if there is any, will lie with the people at the top.
Carol, I'm sure you're the same as me. It's not those officers, those brave officers, and ambulance staff and fire officers at the scene. It's the leadership.
I think sometimes their leaders put them in an unbelievably.
And it would seem that a lot of people have been put in a lot of danger.
Can I just reflect something on the Daily Mirror's front page? You get that up. If you look at the Daily Mirror's picture, it clearly shows the incident, obviously the car and the police, but it also shows the Hooters bar on it.
Oh, there it is. Well spotted.
If, once again, the reports are true, someone came out of that bar, if you look at it on the left-hand side, got into a car and then slow drove into the crowd, not a huge distance, I think another paper did say 20 or 30 yards, so we're not talking huge distances. How, once again, did someone get out of Hooters, get onto their car, start the engine, bear in mind there's police and thousands of people.
Hold it up, can you just hold that up?
So if you look, the Hooters bar is here. Yeah. That's where the Hooters, there's Hooters down there, and then the incident's down here. So we're not talking far at all. How did they get into that car, if that is what's true?
It looks like it must have been parked right outside the bar.
It must have been. And, I mean, that's very dangerous. How did that happen? Why is there a car parked there, can drive through the crowd? I mean, this is...
Was there a set of rolling... Were the police supposed to close different roads at different times? It's an enormous route, isn't it? When we saw the route. So has somebody failed to close a certain part at that moment?
You know what? This is actually, you know, gathering quite a lot of momentum as to how ridiculous this incident is now. So, for clarity, the Times are reporting from Eyewitness that, and again, look, this might turn out to not be the case. We're just going off what is in the Times. They say bloke stumbles out of a Hooters, drunk, gets in a car, then it ploughs through a load of people. So you've rightly identified there. Well done for spotting that. On the front page of the Mirror, Daily Mirror, there's a Hooters bar, then you've got the scene here. So if that car, bear in mind that this parade has been going on for however many hours, so that would imply to me that the car might have been parked there before the parade. I would have thought in these situations the police are sweeping the area, making sure there's no explosives in cars, examining almost every parked car, possibly putting a ban on parked cars there. I mean, it wasn't that long ago. The other week they blew a car up on Oxford Street in London that turned out to be absolutely fine. Some bloke's left his car on the side of the road, he's come back and the police have blown it up. But, you know, that's not happening here.
Because normally they put temporary parking restrictions all the way down. But I think here they'll be closing different roads off. You've got a city centre, you can't close the whole city centre for 2 and 3 hours.
Yeah.
There should have been rolling closures and something's gone wrong.
Yeah.
Well, if you've got like this Hooters hit and run, right, if this is what he's trying to do, the police are on the road, they're scattered everywhere. I know we keep saying I've done a great job, but have they done a great job? Because if that geezer has come out a Hooters bar, got in his motor, driven down the wrong way down the road without being stopped. You know, usually when you've got a football match on, they come and pick the cars up and they move them.
Yes.
You know, to get plastered, it must have been in there a little while if it was, you know, coming out.
The Times must be very confident in their source because at the time that they've gone to print here, every single national newspaper, by the way, has gone to print before we had that press conference that we had, as far as I'm aware. They must have done because the newspapers. So they will not know as much as we know now. In fact, the only one, so the Echo must have held off here because they've got the 47 injured figure. So there we go. So they or possibly have better sources, but with the Merseyside police actually, that's maybe it. But I think this is the Times must be very, very sure of their source who is saying that this bloke got out of a Hooters drunk, because at the moment they have gone to print, someone has been nicked, so it's about to become an active case, and you start lobbing this stuff out there. So yeah, they must be pretty confident of that. And you know, let's be honest, on the face of it, it might make a lot of sense given what was given what we're seeing. But you were making the case that as it currently stands, the guidelines for sentencing for something like this are not particularly strong, are they?
No. Anybody who gets killed with a car will know that we see these incidents all the time, don't we, where children are killed by cars, and the sentences are derisory, really, and it's something that's got to be looked at.
Are there any aggravating offences that would increase it from 2 years into more if it's a crowd or children? Does that make it?
No, there's no other. You know, there's all sorts of other offences like making off without failing to stop at an accident. There's the drink driving. You could top up things and add things consecutively, but often you know as well as I do with sentences, it's all concurrent. So people think 5 lots of 2 equals 10. It equals 2 years in jail. You know, because everything's concurrent.
But also, you would have to prove intent, and if he was drunk, there's no intent.
Well, we'll see. We'll have to wait and see. So, just to give you a little bit of a recap, again, there's a 53-year-old man who is currently in custody. I'll stress, not yet been charged or anything. The discussion that you will have been hearing there about drink driving and possible sentences, etc. Yeah, OK, it's speculation. It's based around a source in the Times. That would maybe be verified by the picture in the Daily Mirror, which would indicate that there is a Hooters there. We're going to have to wait and see. Crucially, police say that they do not believe it's terrorist-related. They think it was an isolated incident. No one's died yet, so let's hope it stays that way. 2 people seriously injured, 1 of them a child. 4 people were trapped under this vehicle, and a massive police response to it as well. I'm just going to reiterate, Merseyside Police's Assistant Chief Constable Jenny Sims says, well, matter-of-factly, we believe the man we've arrested to be the driver of the vehicle. Extensive inquiries are ongoing to establish the circumstances leading up to the collision, and it is vital that people do not speculate or spread misinformation on social media. Some other people maybe pointed out that perhaps they could have maybe done a little bit more to stop this, but there we go. We've got a statement here as well from Nick Searle, who is the Merseyside Fire and Rescue Service Chief Fire Officer. We immediately mobilised 3 fire engines to Water Street and were in attendance in just 4 minutes. On arrival, the crews were met with numerous injured, 4 people trapped under a vehicle. Our crews rapidly lifted the vehicle, removed 3 adults and 1 child from beneath and passed them to our ambulance service colleagues. We then worked with emergency service partners to ensure casualties received medical treatment and transport to hospital as quickly as possible. He added that his fire crews will remain a visible and reassuring presence in the coming days and weeks. The fact that 4 children are among the injured, I think, is the additional harrowing detail here. I mean, we were seeing some of the footage that people were pushing pushchairs in this crowd. This could have been so much worse, couldn't it?
Yeah, it could have been absolutely terrible. I mean, this is a family day, a happy day. There's lots of young families, lots of families, old people, young people. It's for everyone. And this celebration for Liverpool is a celebration of Liverpool. It's not just about people like football, it's the whole community coming together. So anybody could have been hit, anyone would be injured, and it would be devastating.
And there'll be, for a lot of Liverpool fans, understandably so, there'll just be the echoes of Hillsborough, won't there?
Dreadful. And they'll want to know that the authorities tell the truth, because that was the problem with Hillsborough. People accept that awful accidents that occur, it's when the authorities conspire to cover it up, and it's just simply not good enough. Let's hope that the truth comes out very, very quickly. And it's just the awfulness of it is it's just such a stupid thing. That's the awfulness of it.
Case.
Yeah, just going forward, and you know, look,
seems to be
a lot of people saying online that the police were very, very quick to say this is a white British driver. OK. Carol, should this set the tone now going forward?
Completely. I mean, I saw that stuff on social media earlier on where people are saying, isn't it funny how they will release, details about some perpetrators and not others, and we know what they're talking about. They're talking about Southport. I think it's really important, and I think it's very important for the cops to know that tonight the people of Liverpool and everyone else has been in shock. Tomorrow they will want answers, and they will be angry if they don't get answers, and that's when this could all turn very nasty.
What do you think about this? Because, you know, people say, oh, you can't win. You know, the authorities try and hide something from you, or allegedly try and hide something from you about, I would argue, relevant information about somebody's nationality or whatever. I mean, there was a case, for example, of the Hartlepool asylum seeker where he murdered a bloke who was out walking his dog. I mean, they put a D notice on that. We were not allowed to report. We were not allowed to report on it until it went to court and everything. You see here straight away, white British man, everyone calm down. I mean, just going forward, you just need to treat everyone the same. Just say everything you know, ethnicity, nationality, age. Would that be the easy way around this, do you think?
Yeah, I mean, you can't just cheat the public for fools at the end of the day and, you know, okay, it's a white British man, this occasion might be something different than another. I mean, there was, you know, back to the front page of that Times, they did say that there was reports of sort of armed police coming as a rapid response. So say it was another type of offence, you know, could have been a far right, you know, whatever. The fact that they were there responding quickly, great. Prevention, not so great.
All right, well, can I just say a massive thank you to my panel this evening. It's been, you know, a pretty seismic evening. I'd like to thank everybody for watching it and listening as well, and all the guests that we've had throughout, Mark White, especially in the wonderful production team here. And Jack Carson. Jack Carson, who's been live at the scene for us. I want to say there are still so many unanswered questions here, though, about exactly who this individual was and exactly why it happened. And Ellie Costello will be live for us from Liverpool at 6 a.m. tomorrow morning. So tune in then.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Good evening and welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. Well, there's some welcome rainfall in the forecast for many of us. Sunshine and showers persisting in Scotland, and it's often going to be rather breezy. Now, we've got an area of low pressure clearing its way eastwards through this evening and overnight. A squeeze in the isobars, so it is going to be turning quite windy. This cloud and rain across northern parts of England, Wales and the southwest will continue to push its way eastwards into East Anglia and the southeast of England. Behind that, clearer spells developing, but still holding on to some frequent showers across western Scotland, otherwise temperatures 6 to 12 degrees. Now, it could be a chilly start in places across eastern parts of Scotland, but a bright start here too. Further out towards the west, that's where we hold on to further scattering of showers, again moving in on that brisk westerly wind. Now, a bright start initially across Northern Ireland and across much of England and Wales, but across the southwest of England, we're already seeing outbreaks of rain moving through. And it is going to be turning increasingly wet and windy from the southwest, with heavy spells of rain pushing its way eastwards, so affecting Northern Ireland, Wales, southern parts of England, into the Midlands and then later into the southeast. Some of this rain could be heavy, especially over the hills and across Exmoor, Dartmoor, the Pennines too, but across Scotland, sunshine and showers, highs of up to 17 degrees. So then as we go through Wednesday, a bit of a cloudy start in places with some rain, but otherwise it is a day of sunny spells and some scattered showers. Not everywhere is going to see those showers, and in the sunshine actually feeling pleasant enough. And then as we go Thursday and Friday, more rain in the forecast for some of us, but turning warmer with highs of 23 in the south. Bye-bye.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
You could be driving away with this brand new Elnag Baron 560 motorhome. It comfortably sleeps 4, comes with skyroof, integrated kitchen and bathroom, and is worth over £67,000. And that's not all, as we'll also give you a further £5,000